Hey, Sam.
Hey,
How's it going?
Charles, good morning, good afternoon.
Oh, Colin's there. Hey there.
Yeah.
I'm just
Hello, Charles.
go off camera for a minute, getting in position. And it's funny. I was hanging with a small group of people on Zoom last night, Sam, and somebody has used the same background there with the Aurora Borealis.
They must be in the neighborhood.
Actually, they kind of are a little bit further north from me. But yeah, not too far as it turned out.
Up in BC?
Yeah, in fact. Yeah. Colin, how's it going? No word from Colin. It's okay.
Doing pretty good. I had a session with Gertrude yesterday and the appreciators.
Okay. Hey, Lauren. Hey, Jasvinder. Is it Jasvinder with a V sound or Winder, like some people say? I was curious. What's the correct way? If there's.
Hello, Charles. We had this
Hi.
We had the pronunciation last week, and we decided on handsome, didn't we?
Well, that's fine for me. I just like whatever you say. You're the boss there in regard to your own name.
Well, my real name is Jaswinder Singh.
Okay, so with the W, the W sound in English.
Were.
Okay.
It's not a ver, it's a were. But I answer to almost everything, especially things like, would you like a beer? Dinner's nearly ready. Those are sort of my favorite names.
Yeah, I like the cold beer in particular, or you don't like your beer warm, I hope.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. No, because I'm in Zurich and also with my daughters, like the difference between the W and the V sound, it gets pretty confusing sometimes. So I just had to check. Thanks.
Well, sometimes the V is in the Far East becomes a B. So a lot of the B names have become V and W names. And there's a fair amount of confusion, but we like it that way.
Yeah, stir it up. Yeah, okay, got it.
Or you could do the German pronunciation, Jasvinder.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, why not? Okay.
Yeah.
So how is everybody?
Successful.
Good.
Everybody is sleepy.
How's Colin?
Successful. I made it past 10 minutes, eh?
Superb. I'm proud of you.
Was this a yesterday reference?
Yeah. That's not me.
What's the context to the yesterday reference?
Well, Colin turned up and Colin decided that he needed to have some therapy. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, no doubt.
Actually, I'd like to interrupt right there. It was introduced as it wasn't therapy. It wasn't looking for trauma.
And Colin likes to be pedantic about what everything is or isn't. So
Those weren't my words. Those are Gertrude's words.
there he goes again. So at the end of about 3.5 hours, Colin wasn't giving way at all. And poor Gertrude admitted she had been humbled and she needed time off and get ready for her next appointment. And she went off, and I sort of insisted.
Hey, Gertrude.
Hello, Gertrude. And I sort of insisted that we do at least a 10-minute, just quiet down and do nothing 10 minutes with the eyes shut, body relaxed. He was very reluctant, but he agreed. And it appears it's agreeable to him now, which is excellent. Well done, Gertrude.
Yeah, that's quite a nod. That's quite a nod.
Gertrude, you're on mute.
Quite a nod. It was very gracious of Gertrude.
I didn't get what you said, so I.
Well, we're letting a little bit of Friday spill into Saturday, so we're just hearing about the session from yesterday.
Yeah.
I was. Hi, Gertrude. We didn't meet, I don't think, but I'm Charles over in Zurich, by the way.
Hi. Hi. Hi,
Hi,
Lauren.
Lauren. I've heard all about you, but I haven't met you yet. So
So
Great.
I was just like,
Gertrude is a very hospitable
what,
host.
what's that, Sam?
Gertrude is a very hospitable host if you choose to visit just north of Frankfurt.
Okay, wonderful. I hope that I'll have a chance to do that at some point in the near future. It doesn't look
What
like
do you-
Yeah, she hosted one of the
Charles?
few GCC get-togethers.
Hmm?
You coming
Twice.
from, Charles and Lauren?
I live in
What?
Zurich, but I'm from New York and California when I was small. I'm mostly New Yorker here. Just coming up right on 10 years this month, actually. So I kind of just, while we were chit-chatting in the beginning, there was some reference between Colin and Jaswinder to yesterday, and I think you were involved, and I was just trying to understand the context, and then they started kind of actually going at each other right away. So that happened just while you were coming. Anyway,
That was a one-way attack, please.
hi Glenn, good to see you.
Hold on, these aren't attacks.
Hello, good to see you people.
Hey, so since many of you are actually quite close, I mean, we've got a lot of people here already. Let me just say, at least for the record, Joshua had been penciled in, but he declined the opportunity to take today's session. So I offered part 2 of the Charles and Lauren or Lauren and Charles show. And Lauren, I think, thinks that's a good idea. So we're about to do part 2 of the Kiko Lab Lauren and Charles show today.
another carefully prepared presentation.
And I'm gonna very carefully just offer a disclaimer that I'm gonna take a real backseat, but I'm definitely here to support and to be present. And I'm also a bit distracted because there's another kind of deadline flurrying across my screen. So I'm gonna be in and out of like full focus, but I'm here and I'm really glad and excited to be here.
Cool. But before we do that, does anyone want to have their optional check-in? Since we do allow that, enable that, welcome that.
I might stay for only an hour. So Saturdays is not so easy for me. So I apologize if I have to leave earlier. But
Right.
I wanted to come here and have a glimpse on what you do. Yeah, and to see who is here.
So you may have
hi.
heard, but we're probably 2 or 3 months into an experiment, which is how do each of us bring focus to a conversation? So each of us is taking turns bringing a topic and the moderation skills to sort of help us do some focusing. And then we do, in the last 30 minutes, a brief retrospective to see whether or not, we actually did achieve focus, whether the moderation assisted in getting that focus, and third, whether we actually then co-created with that focus. So that's really the questions that kind of drive this. Last week, Lauren took an opportunity to get us into a profiling experiment. We collected a lot of input from people. Lauren's actually been working on it quite a bit this week, I understand. And so this is part 2 of Lauren and Charles, I presume with more on profiling, but that could be a presumption.
Okay.
Any other check-ins? I'll go. I've had about 3 hours sleep. It's really interesting. I've been about 9 or 10 weeks into a pretty intense, what would you call it, a retooling of myself so that I can actually become more facile with software development. And it's actually quite fun. So I spend almost all my time reading and learning and doing exercises and watching YouTube videos on the latest thing. And software engineering these days is very different from the way it was 30 years ago. And I'm really enjoying it. But I'm also enjoying being relatively incompetent until I gain more competence. So that's why I sometimes don't get sleep, because in the middle of the night, I'm still watching videos and learning and reading and doing exercises and tutorials, etc. Other than that, I've been playing 30 to 45 minutes of ping pong every day. My daughter and I continue to cook at least half the time. And dogs keep us busy, and work is still fun. So that's it for me.
Quick question, Sam, if there's a quick answer. In terms of the studying up and sort of coming more up to date on what's happening with the tech stuff, is there a particular sort of application area or need or sort of range of functions that you're looking at?
This could get quite long. Let me see if I can keep it short.
If there's a quick answer, obviously, yeah.
Okay,
if not,
so
then it's okay.
call it big data with closure. That's the short answer.
Nice.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Closure. Is that a question towards me?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Colin. Got many people here this morning. Interference. But I've closed the
Wait.
door.
Where's the interference?
I think he had
Local.
people. Yeah.
Local here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually, there's been
It's
a lot.
hard to tell who you're talking to, Colin, because you're not visible.
Well, I'm half naked. I can come on camera, but we're almost there. Trust me. I get naked to do meditation. I figure it helps.
It's a lot of information there, Colin.
Well, I just learned it yesterday.
Anybody else? Glenn? Alex?
I was trying to avoid, I was eagerly obsessed with my YouTube technology videos and trying to avoid politics and religious debate. All the years and was racist and xenophobic. So I tried to avoid any news items as well, but all the emails I've been getting relating to the politics and religion is the problem, because lots of them contain links to a video or a blog or something. So you get dragged away, and it's often difficult to focus. You get to drag yourself back to the thing you're supposed to be focusing on. But it can be done with practice anyway, and I'm getting better at that, Elba.
Anyone else?
I got feedback from Lauren, so she made an excerpt from what all the good stuff that was told about me. So I was very happy to get that. So thank you, Lauren, and everybody who contributed.
Yeah, I saw about 1.5 hours last Saturday. I couldn't be there, but that was really beautiful and inspiring to see. It's this idea. Had a few experiences of trying something like that, and it's just somehow worked really well every time. And it's just something very interesting about this of just focusing on the what we appreciate with people and what the people in the room bring, and just how when we have that focus, it soon becomes apparent that every person has so much that they offer, and that's seen by different people, and it's really an extraordinary thing. So yeah, so actually I was expecting Josh to present something, but I mean, it's really great to keep going into this, or just whatever they want to bring. But that was really really a great 1.5 hours what I saw. And yeah, apart from that, I mean, obviously a lot on my mind. Very interested to hear more also about what you mentioned, Sam. I mean, the long answer would be fun to hear sometime. Yeah, and you know, obviously a lot of things happening in the world, a lot of things happening inside, and but also a lot of creative ideas flowing. So that's maybe a part of the issue, part of it all. Also seems interesting. yeah. Anyway, let's go to it. Glad to be here.
Well, just a brief response. If you want the detail, we can do the detail even after the formal ending of today's session. So I can hang around and do that if you like. Cool, thanks. Next.
Yeah, wonderful changing times we live in. I don't have much of a check-in. I think that's enough said.
I want to add something. I would like to tell you that I was on the so-called Integral European Conference, which was an online conference with 1,000 people around the world. And it was 5 days from 9 to midnight. And a very important part was creating WeSpace. So not the regular, but a new WeSpace. And yeah, this is, so if we're starting a conversation with other people to talk about the different topics, and I will infuse GCC in there, and we'll look how that can come together in a way. And yeah, so it's not so easy to talk about it because it was just overwhelmingly much material, but there was a lot that we want to have in GCC that was present there, and I tried to find out how to get that a grasp on it and bring it here. So that's what I wanted to add.
I'm so interested in what they had with these 5,000 people online.
Was that a question?
Kind of like a hint that I'd love to talk later in detail about, like the things that they managed to do with the, like, I'm interested in what you're saying.
It was amazing. It was really amazing. Yeah. Oh.
Had you participated in some of the before they were just online? Because that's been for several years, I think.
Yeah, I've been to 2 in Hungary. So, and they wanted to do another one this year in Hungary, and then COVID came along. And so they postponed it till next year. And then they decided, nevertheless, we'll do it this year online. And then it was not 400, but 1,000 people to register.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. And to have the possibility of having 1,000 people and really creating this we.
So a lot of breakouts?
Yeah. But not only.
Sure.
Even there was one guy who was talking 1.5 hours and everybody was in tears about a mining company, how he worked there. So it's, yeah. So it was not only because there were little groups, it was really the whole space this way. And they did an amazing job to create it and get everything done so that it technically worked. They had an amazing team of facilitators, technical moderators, and so it was really great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to check in before we turn it over to Lauren and Charles? I have to admit I was a little bit poked, if not triggered, because these are rough times. And to me, I've seen a lot of people say, I want to remain apolitical or non-political or out of the fray. I think these are the times we've been waiting for. This is the time where we actually can affect change. So to stay out of it and opting out seems odd if we're really interested in change making. So anyway, that was just a quick little response to that. Sorry about that.
I'm organizing a Portuguese roundtable, and one of the people I'm doing it with, I said, oh, I found this flyer of these indigenous activists in Brazil who are like Indigenous Lives Matter. And he was like, are you sure you want to invite them? Because they're left wing. And I think we should be apolitical. And I kind of think, well, you know, I think only like middle class white people even have the option to be like apolitical.
Exactly.
Oh no.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
it
that's
does
true.
seem like a privilege to be able to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, and that's an illusion anyway. If you really think you are pulling yourself out of it, it's it. What's it? You know, we're all in it actually. So
We're all in it. Yeah, we're all in it. That's it.
Okay, so I'm assuming with a count of 3, no one else needs to check in. So Lauren, you're on.
Okay. Well, we have kind of 2 things to do today because last week we did some profiles. Now, these profiles aren't done in the way that I'd like them to be done, but they are compiled. I got them up on the internet. I looked in Otter and I didn't see the proper highlighting, and that was this morning. So I'm not sure what happened. You, Sam and Josh and Tice wanted to go in there. So you still have time because I haven't assembled the final videos to see if there's something you want to take out. I assume most of the stuff you want to leave in. If there's something you want to take out, then let me know.
So let me admit, I think I got a few minutes in and fell asleep. That's how prepared was. So I apologize about that. Okay, I'll go do that later today.
Okay, so all these profiles are assembled on the Miro page, but I don't know if I want to do that right now because I have another agenda that I really want to get done, and I don't want to fall into the rabbit hole of reviewing these profiles and talking too much about it. Although I'd like to do that at the end so it can spill over into past, like, however long people want to talk about it. But I actually want to get something done today because I have an agenda. So maybe we can do that later. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so what I want to do today, and I don't have a firm way of going about it, although I have an idea, is I would like to do a group profile and get the essence of why people come here and what everyone hopes to achieve with as little work on my on my part as we can possibly do. So the original idea I came up with is, we can all go around a circle and say, I come to this group for this reason. Is that the easiest? That probably means I have to like cut up a video again. I'd like to avoid it if possible because I'm trying to reduce the work I have to do. Because what I'm trying to do, what Charles is trying to do, is make this a scalable operation. So something that we can do for many different groups and that we can see the purpose of different groups and the profiles of people within them at a glance. So within several minutes, I'd like to be able to figure out like what 20 groups are about, which we cannot do right now. Even if they, they state their, purpose, it's still something about it's not enough. It's not like bang, bang, bang. So this is what I'm trying to do. My idea for doing it, this could be a stupid idea, but it's one idea I have, is that we could, there's a Wise Democracy Patterns page, and we could look at they're like 100 patterns now. And I was thinking that we could choose like 9 of these patterns that are the most important to this group and then order them in order. And the first would be the absolute essentials. The second would be the needs, like something we really want, but are not essential. And then just the wants, like the extra 3 things. So I don't know, we could look at these patterns and you could tell me if you think that would be a good way to go about expressing the essence of this group. That could be a scalable way, or if you think there's a better way that we could, maybe we do go around a circle and say why we come to this group, and then we do a little exercise where we say, where we sum that up in like 1 minute and record that. But basically, I don't want to like record and have to edit it. So I want to do something where I can do something like I can record and then just download like 1 minute video and like done. Yay, Kayla! Hi. Anyone have ideas, feedback?
So I'm a little bit confused. I was wondering, did you want to drive the conversation using the wise democracy patterns, or did you want to get other people's take on why we're each individually here?
Well, though, choosing the wise democracy patterns is one way to do it. And that would basically be like, and I'm trying to get your input on this way or that way or both. So one way is to choose a number, limited number of these patterns, basically making us, forcing us to order what's most important to us. And the second is just like taking the temperature around the room, seeing why everyone comes, and then expressing that in the shortest way possible.
So I suspect I'm not familiar with the way the wise democracy patterns are expressed, and I don't know how many of the rest of us are. I might be in the minority, but could you go through a quick round where you give like a 1 minute synopsis of each of the 9 that you want us to consider, and then we can each say, at least initially, I can say, yeah, this has got to be there, or else we can't do anything. And then second, yeah, we think this is very important, but it's not one of the essentials. And then the third is, hey, it'd be nice to have. And could we do a 1, 2, 3 voting after your 1 minute summary of each of those items? I'm just wondering because I don't know what those 9 are, so I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, so this is, there are like 100 patterns that we can choose from, and I would suggest that we would go through the list. There's a website, and then I can also just share my screen and choose maybe 20 of them, and then whittle them down to 9, and then order them. Do you think that's doable?
I think it's quite ambitious, but yeah, I'm willing to follow along.
Everyone?
Sounds very interesting. Fun.
Should we try to use breakouts? Should we try to divide up?
We could absolutely do that.
I mean, it just occurs to me somehow. Yeah, I don't have any more specific idea other than just sort of.
We could absolutely do breakouts. That would be a good idea.
Sam, were you asking also? I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, and I'm sorry. In general, I'm sort of in and out of focus today. But you want us to orient you? I could perhaps, in regard to the wise democracy pattern language, you want a kind of overview of that capsule or something, or would that be useful?
I'm just admitting that I do not know what those 9 or 100 patterns are, and I just don't know how many of the rest of us have that knowledge. So how many of us, I certainly cannot talk about it competently. Right now.
Even myself, who I've been involved with the project and with Tom, I'm not that conversant myself. Also with all of them, there's a lot. But I guess, Lauren, if the idea maybe is just to dive in and kind of scoop up some handfuls and then reduce the handfuls. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
I think it's up to you and Lauren. Focus us, please.
Yeah, the choreography doesn't happen by itself, Lauren. So I don't know. I
So
didn't
how
give
about
it thought.
this? Why don't we start with this? Why don't we actually, can we go around the room and actually say, without a lot of time, maybe we can keep it down to 30 seconds, why we each come here. And then maybe we can, Sam, like you do, you write notes in the chat. Maybe we can gather some of those words and then find patterns that match those. So just in case the pattern thing is a disaster, then we'll still have the, the round table of, the way I first thought to do it. So
That
when
sounds
we do that, can you put
sounds
it
great.
from gallery view to speaker view, Sam?
Yes, I can
Can
do
you put it? Can you put it in cooking terms, as if you're preparing in the kitchen, this broth you've got on the stove? Are you simmering it to boil it down, or are you adding stuff to it to build it up into a stew?
Yeah, we want to boil it down, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just doing a quick kind of like as rapid as we can, just like we did last week on why we come here, why we're here, and what we're hoping to achieve.
Okay. I have a
There's
quick
a problem.
idea to help frame and to try to be practical, rapidly practical. So I like this idea. What we're just sort of about to do is this quick round, 30 seconds, why we come here. And then what I would suggest is, without discussing it, we go immediately into not even breakout. Well, I don't know. Who's Sam? Are you good with breakouts? Do you have facility there?
I'm not, but I could make one of you host.
Or who?
I
No,
can do
because
it
I
too.
don't. Well, so what I was thinking was, what if we just divide up in pairs? If it's easy and quick. If it's not necessary. It could also be just individually. I would suggest actually taking 2 minutes or 3, I don't know, without discussion, just do the round and then jump in immediately to either pairs or whatever, even by ourselves, and just go through the pattern list. And so something that Tom Atlee, the creator of this thing, does frequently is kind of a default setting, is just sort of look through and see what emerges, what calls out, what comes to mind, sort of jumps out in terms of the language and the names of the patterns. So I would say, take literally 2 or 3 minutes. It could just be individually or in small groups, and then we can come back, I think, and then we'd already be ahead.
Okay, that sounds great. So right now, Sam, you put it on speaker view and we're doing a round robin. Is that it?
It is in speaker view, and we can do whatever you like. My one response to Charles is, if we're looking at 100 names of patterns, I'm not sure that 2.5 minutes is enough for me to absorb that.
No, it's got to be, and I think it's really okay. I mean, since we don't have the luxury of time, and we're trying to counter that approach to kind of hanging out and swimming in the pool. It's really it's diving in and out. It's just really scanning and seeing what jumps out actually quickly, sort of first impressions.
That might be better, because it's just like, what is it,
This
like
is
our instinct, and that will help us find like what is the instinctual thing. I think that might be.
I just had a look at that list, and I couldn't narrow that down to 9. I could select everything on that list.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that doesn't define the group. Because I was just talking the other day about how if I wrote a list of 50 qualities that I wanted in a man, I'm not going to find the man that is for me. You stick with 9 qualities and order them, you're going to attract what you need and what you want.
Okay, Lauren, tell me what to do.
Okay, so Sam, why don't you start? Why do you come here?
Okay, so somebody keep me honest on time, okay? I come here because I want to meet people who are very, very interested and dedicated to learning how to collaborate better, how to lean into disagreements, how to co-vision the future that we want, how to basically be an exemplar for all of this, and for us to sort of be the change we want to see in the world, okay? Furthermore, on more detailed projects, I like to draw on the inspiration from Doug Engelbart, I want to be able to figure out how we can share group memory, how we can share group knowledge, how we can anneal and coagulate and assemble and aggregate knowledge and simulations and predictions. And I want to create a community of impact, one that's mutually accountable to each other, where we are each individual autonomous entities, but able to work towards a co-vision future. So is that 30 seconds? I mean, I could go on and on and on and on.
I think that's good. Lauren, what do you think? Lauren's muted.
Lauren's muted.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm muted. Glenn, do you want to go?
Sure. I'm here because I want to find the truth. So I want to find out what is really happening. What is it that can be known for sure that's really happening? And is there a limit to what can be known? If so, where is it? But in the most general sense, find out what is the basic truths that sort of underlie all the details, the sort of what are the basic patterns, what are the basic laws, and also the laws of who we are as humans. And then from that understanding, begin to move towards how can something beautiful be created, and how can we build a global body of understanding, a new understanding between people, which is so strong, it's so based on truth that it can be relied on, really relied on. And then from that, we can create a beautiful world, astonishingly beautiful world. It should be quite possible if it's done right. So that's why I'm here, to meet others who are interested in the same, and to build this understanding, and with that new kind of community where visions are formed, ideas are formed, understanding is formed, all kinds of good things come out of it. So so that's sort of what I would want to wish to achieve, is this sort of super community. And that was just really what all of you seem to be speaking about, which can grow out of this understanding, which is fueled by these conversations. So
okay,
yeah, I
Glenn?
think that's it.
Okay. Great. Colin?
I assume 30 seconds why I'm here? Or did you decide on something else?
Yeah, why do you come here?
That's a really good question. Yesterday I was telling Gertrude maybe I should stop. So maybe why should I stop coming here? I should stop coming here because it's very frustrating to feel like you're heard, to get any kind of context. Although I come here because I have a lot of appreciation in Sam's vision. And I would like to know from Sam where coexistence fits into that vision, because I didn't hear you say it within your description today. Or maybe that's the umbrella word. Thanks.
Jaswinder?
Egalitarian society.
Okay, are you complete?
I'm complete.
Wow, that was to the point. Rah, rah.
Well, it's so confused that there's not much to say. In fact, I've heard people say that the GCC is like a mind virus. So, what does that mean?
Yes, but the
Colin,
question is, why do you come here? Not why are you frustrated?
yeah, and you had your
It's all wrapped
your
together.
space. We're going to move on.
Okay, Thijs?
I'm here mainly for listening, and then maybe we'll get more common understanding. And I'm well connected in my feelings, so getting feedback from the others on what I'm doing. So I'm active outside the real thing here. So here I'm for listening. That's the only reason.
Why do you listen to this group instead of another group?
Because I need to be in a group that people are listening, and so people are listening relatively well here. And I just stumbled on this group and not on another group. So I'm not changing anywhere. And this is regular. So it's continuous every week. So then you get a build up. So then I can share more to the people, learn more and build up more. And then globally, I'm not seeing this as in itself the group to be, because this is a nucleus, but it doesn't seem to combine well to come in a, say, in a common mood, more or less. But it's okay.
Alex, you want to talk?
Yeah, I've got contact with people on a local group, local area, online. We don't meet up much outside the house. So it's having real people to talk to is what it's about. Having a group of people who are like-minded in what they co-vision, collaborate, and being able to throw ideas, converse with those people, sharing ideas and thoughts and feelings and all the rest of that social activity. That's with another human being is where it's at. Otherwise, you're not dealing authentically with a live person when you're chatting on text or something. So being on video, appearing live on screen is the big part of the conversation. Having that ability to see the other person's emotional, facial features, their body language. It's included in the deal. The big part of it's removed when you can't see that. So it's what I heard the girls from the Wisdom Factory saying, it was a matter of waking up, dressing up and fronting up, showing up, you know what I mean? Being authentic and real. These are the people you want to have a conversation with. If you have trust, you establish a bit of trust, that helps a great deal too. So those are interesting aspects of the deal, the whole shebang I'm learning to appreciate, thanks to people with wisdom like Sam and Jaswinda and these ladies from Gertrude was part of the Wisdom Factory, I think, when she was here before. And so without specifically naming people, it's just a good group with objectives in mind. That's the things we are learning together, putting them in this knowledge repository, which is really what I like about this, is people's minds link organically via the network. I'm not saying plug us into a neural chip. I'm saying be social, be more social, and sharing of your ideas and your visions. That's all.
Okay. I'm sorry to rush you, Alex. I'm just trying to get through this so we can have more time to figure this stuff out. Gertrude?
I think it's the first time that I'm here, so I don't have that much to say about it, but in general, I'm pretty much resonating with Sam's vision. For me, it's, that life works for everyone. And to have practices in place that everybody can be him or herself and not has to change in order to fit in. So yeah, co-creation, coexistence in a peaceful way, and to know how to do that. And for me, there's this community of practice. I want to even go further to have a system of influence and to intermatch, like I said before, like the integral community with the appreciative inquiry community with the GCC. So to have that in those interconnections, that there is a bigger, that not everybody's on an island, but like, it doesn't mean that they have to merge, but to come together in a way that it's more powerful to create change.
Okay, great, thank you. And Kayla?
I'm here to connect with like-minded individuals to make the world a better place, to share ideas, and then also bring ideas to my immediate community. And with that, I'm complete.
And Charles? You're muted, Charles.
Excuse me. Hi. Thank you. I don't come often here to GCC conversations, but I do feel deeply connected with the group's goals and mission and vision, and as well some of the people very involved in organizing the conversations and especially the knowledge repository of GCC. I'm more engaged in Metacogs, which some of you know, which has a common origin of GCC and forming around a mobilization for applying to the Global Challenges Prize a few years ago. And I'm just kind of entertained, at least, that we circle back and start to interweave our networks and our conversations. I'm especially keen to apply these things practically, like we're working to do at Kiko Lab, Collective Intelligence Collaboratory in the Rapid Learning Network and sense-making workflow. And to the extent, or when we're able to intersect conversations and collaborations with GCC, I'm here all the way. Thanks.
Okay, and me, I come because this is the only, you know, crazy place with a bunch of weirdos who would actually like let me do this kind of thing, because where else am I gonna do it? Where else would I feel comfortable being like, I have no idea how I'm gonna run this and what I'm doing, but will you let me just try so I can just like fail spectacularly and you don't care and you'll be like, this just totally okay. So it's like a place where I can learn, and that it's an experimental place, and that's actually, I think it's really, really valuable. So I'm definitely appreciating and you letting me do this, and I think that's really like the quality of the space, of people willing to try stuff. Okay, so now the again, the link is right here. And I think that Charles was talking about going into breakout rooms with just 2 or 3 people and going through the list and just seeing what jumps out at us.
I've got the breakout room set up now.
Oh, you do? Okay. So how long do you think we should go in these breakout rooms?
That was Charles's suggestion, to go about 2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes? Okay, why don't we do 3 minutes? That's not long.
Okay, shall I hit the button? Tell me when to hit the button.
Is everyone ready?
One
You
quick
have
thing.
the, yeah.
Hank, I would say right away, someone decide within each breakout who's going to make the list and submit it.
Yeah. Okay, does everyone understand what you're going to be doing? Does anyone not understand?
Very quickly, we've got 100 items to go through. Pick 9, list them, and bring them into the forum.
Okay, so here's an idea. I mean, if we do this again, or maybe I'm just thinking out loud, as far as a protocol, whether it's a Google Doc, for each room or whatever, maybe whoever's doing the list taking, between you within the first minute, let's say, pick 20, and then kind of go around again in the second minute, and then the third minute will be like tightening up the list. Is that, I mean, roughly speaking, maybe that's a useful approach.
Okay.
So how about, can you make sure, Sam, that Kayla and Tice are with someone who they're going to feel comfortable with, because they just indicated that they weren't as, entirely sure.
Okay, there's two options to doing this. You can do it automatically and let the system pick, or I can do it manually. So if it's manual, I could actually do it, but it'll take a little bit more time. So give me a second.
Okay. Tice, what usually happens is that you just are automatically sent into a breakout room, and then you're kind of pulled back into the room.
Yes, but the list making, I don't like that. So
Okay.
I'll see how it works. Talking, it's okay. So,
Okay, I'm
much.
ready to hit the button now. So just the names that you mentioned, Tis and Kayla, I put them in a three-way room with you, Lauren. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
Alex was very clear he didn't want to participate, so I'm just back. But I'm going to make the list.
That was not
here.
mentioned to me, so I didn't hear that.
No, he told me in the breakout.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And he started going to something else, so I just left. It's okay.
Okay. Well, it turns out I was not in a room with anyone when this whole thing happened, so I'm working on my
well
own.
then,
I'm
it's
coming up
so
on the list
cool.
on
So
my
then
own.
we can just do that. That's cool. So I'm just, and this, sorry, so we didn't properly frame
It
it.
is 3 minutes. The timer just went off. It is 3 minutes now.
Oh, okay, fine. Easy. Do we want to compare this? It doesn't matter.
Now I have to figure out how to close the breakout rooms.
Okay.
So where is that UI? Let me figure that out.
Nice to see
Close all
you.
rooms. Here we go. Close all rooms. Oh, that'll give people 1 more minute. Alexa, cancel.
Oh. Okay. I guess we could have done it with more time, but that's fine.
Well, that's what I was asking, and so
Yeah, well, I
I
don't
did
know.
feel like 100. I can't even read 100 items in 2
You want to
minutes.
sort
I'm
of
back in the
explain?
main room. I'm
Yeah,
back in the main room now.
I tease.
Yeah.
I'm just selecting my pattern still.
All the breakout rooms will close in 26 seconds.
Okay, very fine. So clearly it was too little time, I guess. Yeah.
That was my feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Plus, I don't know what gets recorded. I don't even know if the recording stayed with any of those sessions.
No
I
idea.
don't see Kayla returning, but I don't see.
Okay,
the other
2 seconds. I
returning.
think everybody will return in 2 seconds. Okay, is everyone back? Are we missing anyone?
Yes,
Let's
someone
see.
is missing.
It looks like we have a non-guest. Who is that? Is that Alex?
Yeah.
Lauren is.
Okay. All right, so it looks like everybody's back. So, Lauren, Charles, how did that go? How do you want to lead us through a debrief of this?
We found it was way too fast. Did everyone else think that, or did anyone get through all the things?
Should we go
Yes.
back in for 5 minutes? Should we just go back in for 5 minutes? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, why don't we do that?
5 more minutes. Same.
Yep.
Same. That would be great.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alexa, set timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Hey, Colin.
Just putting some sugar in a coffee. Should learn to drink them black, eh? So I'm quite confused on what the context is of what we're doing. I was talking to Gertrude, and she had a list, and she was rattling off some meta things.
The instructions I heard was go through that list, pick out 20 items that look interesting to you.
Okay, well, I don't have a list because I'm on the cell phone.
It's in the chat. There's a link in the chat.
It's a lot of footwork for a phone.
Well,
maybe you could just list off the 20 or the ones you see. And
no, I'm still going through the list. I haven't even read the list yet. That was so fast.
Okay, well, read the list and we'll go through it. Maybe Gertrude's gone. Me and Gertrude.
Oh, she's in the room waiting for you.
Okay, well, I have no link to get there. Are you by yourself or are you with somebody else?
I am on my own because I was not assigned to a group when the system decided to do it that way.
Well, I think my mind radiates a lot easier with yours than Gertrude's. Because Jazz was right when he called it a therapy session, and I called it I felt like I was in therapy, and she said it wasn't therapy. So.
I cannot speak to that since I was not there. But I'm still trying to read these items, and I'm still trying to figure out which of these appeals to me.
I guess I have to go with my heart and say understanding and context. And if you don't have a context, you have nothing to understand. You just sit there and pray to the one. So if the context is a meta list, then I guess that's a place to start. I feel bad about leaving Gertrude with nothing, but you know, she said she was going to leave in an hour, and it's been about an hour, hasn't it? I'll just meditate.
I'm back. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so it seems like all the breakout rooms are now closed.
That's the shortest 5 minutes I've ever known.
I guarantee you that was 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I had the longest 10 minutes I've ever known yesterday, although I knew when it was 10 minutes. Strange.
So,
You're
Lauren,
muted.
what's the next step?
So I would say that the next step, I made a Google Doc, and do we just dump our list into the Google Doc, and then we can go through it and see if we have things in common?
Okay, so do you want to send the link to the Google Doc?
Yeah, hang on.
If we could all make our own Google Doc with the weighted opinion from 1 to 10 next to each selection we provided. Over.
That's impossible for me. I mean, it's all connected in one call. I mean,
Well, hopefully I put the sharing things right.
Okay, I'm clicking on it now.
I put it in the chat.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, I see it. I'm going to add my list. Oh, wait. I don't think I can edit it. It's only read only. Wait, it's still loading. Sorry, it's still loading. Sorry. typing over other people. Okay, I got mine in there.
Okay.
By the way, since this is the first time I actually did breakout rooms, when the system created these breakout rooms, I found myself alone. And minutes into this, then I figured out, oh, I could actually join a breakout room, but I didn't find that for some.
Sam,
Anyway,
I'm
I'm still new to
fascinated.
breakout rooms.
I just have to comment that I'm fascinated after like these years and years of Zooming, like endlessly. That was the first time. So I'm
Because,
glad.
well, I shouldn't say this, but I actually don't believe in breakout rooms for these kind of conversations, because these kind of conversations are meant for us all to hear each other. So I'm going along with it, but historically, I've not chosen to use breakout rooms myself.
Fair enough. Maybe that's another another conversation.
Yes.
The merits of.
Sorry to influence that part of the moderation there.
Yeah,
The anonymous clubfish is writing down numbers. Is the because I don't know which are the numbers.
The numbers are probably referring to the actual items. Yeah.
If you're writing numbers, can you just check to
The
see
patterns.
which they are? Because it makes it easier.
Have to keep the list handy. Yeah.
By the way, my impression of this is that it's probably a second, or third, or fourth, or nth generation version of what we did months ago, something called our behavior experiment. We have about 95 or 88 items that were sort of in the process of being discussed to see how we wanted to show up to these particular sessions. So we actually have a spreadsheet of that sort. It's not as, let's say, theoretical and pure and grandiose as this list appears, but it's much more, let's say, fine-grained. Things like, are we going to interrupt ourselves, or am I going to interrupt you, or that level of items in our list, FYI.
Am I going to do what's best for the collective?
Can someone go in and help the people who listed the numbers find the
I can do that later. I'm just putting the numbers in. Then I'll go back.
I'm saying if someone can come in and just help you, so we can do it.
But if we do that now, it kind of takes us away from the actual conversation, does it not?
Yeah.
It's just so we can all look and see if there are any things that were universally decided upon.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, this is an experiment and it's a process we haven't worked out, obviously. So we're just playing here. So thanks for being here and trying it out.
At the end of the day, I think we could safely say that the intention was to collaborate, and most people voted to collaborate and co-vision to come up with a solution to the problem. We've got to identify the problem accurately.
Thing is, most of us say yes just to go
Jasminder,
along with the thing.
excuse me, I just had a clarifying question for Alex in regard to what Alex you just said. So I'm just curious, intention to collaborate, but you actually did not prefer to collaborate in the breakout. So you opted out of the exercise actually, so far. Just wanted to, wondering about that.
I can't take part in the exercise without time to look through the list and make the selections I want to make. When I looked at the list, there were so many things to choose from. It was mind-boggling. So it needs a couple of days of deep thought.
Okay. Well, the exercise was framed as a rapid one, so I appreciate that. Okay, thanks.
And the other issue was anonymity. The answers shouldn't be linked to the individuals we gave them in this kind of situation. There's political issues involved, and there's intriguing people with access to these videos, with agendas, so you don't want that information getting into the wrong hands. Over.
Can we all help just fill in these numbers where there's not like a list, so we can do the just be looking on the same page?
When you're voting with your feet, you're making a pretty good statement. If you stick around with the group that you enjoyed conversing with, it's voting with your feet. And we're showing up, continuously showing up to the same session means you're interested in the discussion that's going on there and the people involved in that discussion. Otherwise, you'd go somewhere else.
Lauren, just to mention, I dropped my list at the bottom of the document.
Oh, you did? Okay. Hang on just a minute. I am just helping fill these in because I can't see with the numbers. I don't know which ones those refer to. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there because there's so many. Okay. You know, I do feel like maybe enough time. I don't know if we had that, but it does feel like maybe we should have had that. Okay.
Meaning we should have taken longer or what?
No, I'm actually like, let's just go through it and see if there are themes that are popping up that we can see that will help us kind of decide on the most powerful ones. Because
Sam,
maybe
that's a, number 27. It's a pattern. Enough time.
yeah. So I was thinking that that is something that everyone complains like, oh, we're not getting anything done, but maybe that is the point of the group. Maybe that's an essential thing of the group that people show up regardless because there's enough time. Like you're gonna allow for the time for things to emerge.
My heuristic on that one is that I am trying to be careful, although I know I sometimes violate this. I'm trying to be careful to not impose method and to not impose my own thinking. And I know I sometimes violate that, but that's what I'm trying to do in general. And I recognize that that contributes to the length of time it takes to even get around to certain topics or certain agreements. But it's a trade-off I've decided to make as an experiment because I do know very well how to impose structure and how to tell people what to do and how to impose, accepted governance roles. I've been doing that for decades. I intentionally chose not to do that here as much as possible. And to let lessons about autonomous collaboration sort of bubble up.
I'm not sure what context awareness is, but it seems to be popping up again and again.
I don't know if this is open forum, but I'd like to comment on what Sam said about not imposing structure and trying new ways to focus and then doing retrospects on whether that got us farther ahead. Today, it is structure and I'm totally unaligned with it, wasn't prepared, didn't know about it. I'm sitting on a phone. Sorry, apologize to Gertrude because she is more ready. And I didn't go in the last breakout room, but yeah, the non-imposing of structure, I think, goes on a scale from painful to enlightenment depending on who you're doing it with.
So there seems to be like 3 kind of intelligence things coming up. One is collective distributed intelligence. That's come up at least 3 times. And another one is collective wise governance.
It's nice to see the Google Doc evolving. Everybody
If I
brings
search,
some work on it.
I apologize for interrupting you, Tees. If I search for the word collective, it appears 4 times.
Okay.
Not counting for misspellings. If I search for the word context, it appears 5 times.
How about
And
make that
me and Alex
Make that
seem
6.
to almost have the same mind. I think mine and Alex's lists are almost identical. Pretty interesting.
Well, as a heuristic, since I thought that most people would be reading from the top, I started from the bottom.
I searched for the word clarity and I found it 3 times.
I searched for the word certain and I find it 3 times, although it's also in uncertain.
Certainty?
What are we
includes
trying to
uncertainty.
achieve again? What are we going to do when we find like context has 7 votes and you know, I'm thinking
We're trying to, Colin, we're trying to do rapid sense making and we have no methodology, but
Certainty.
we're here to just experiment and just see if we can make sense of the patterns that develop. So it's just a mishmash with no methodology, but we're trying to develop one so I can go into another group and not feel like a jerk.
Generating certainty collaboratively is the GCC.
Interestingly, I didn't find any instance of spirit or spirituality.
Well, there was a word called sacredness, but I feel that's sort of the context for it all, and it's sort of wrong to just put it on a
Oh, you know,
list, so.
yeah, I'm just saying in the interest of rapid, where we have to look at the exact words and not the, you know, loose association, there is sacredness, but I'm just noting that that's not what jumped out at me if I was looking for a spirituality.
I mean, really, like, I'm just surprised, not everyone wrote dancing among clarity, inquiry, and mystery. It seems like, I don't know, it just...
I wrote that, Alex wrote that.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that seems to, yeah, that's wonderful. I love that one.
Dancing appears 3 times. In this document.
But again, you know, so many of them are beautiful formulations, so.
The word
Clarity.
nature.
4 times. Clarity appears 4 times.
Nature is only there twice.
And
Appreciative
appreciative
appears
thinking,
4 times.
I saw at least 4 times.
Yeah, that's 4 times.
Yeah, appreciative.
So far, do we have anything that appeared 5 times, or do we not because we have only 4 groups?
I think you said, didn't you say context appears 5 times?
Let me check for
I'd
that
like to
again.
vote. I'd like to vote manually because I don't
Yes,
think I got
context
my
appears
hand.
5 times. 6 times.
You know, I don't think you can hear me.
We can hear
I
you.
hear you now, Colin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to vote manually. I like the appreciation and I like the context. So if that bumps any numbers. Understanding, I think, is the umbrella for me of meta words, but you need context to get into that.
Yeah, so I would say just from this document, context awareness was surprisingly, to me, it was the it was actually number one in terms of what people came up with separately.
That reminds me, Colin reminded me of somebody who once said that they weren't sure whether that you understood what they were saying, but you knew that they were saying something they wanted you to understand. It's about understanding and communication styles and whether or not the person you're trying to communicate with is interested in the subject matter or just being nice.
That reminds me also of people who say, I understand all the words you're saying, but the way you put them together doesn't make much sense. I like that one too.
That's most relationships I've had.
Also notice that's no collective distributed intelligence. That's on the figure one. And the figure have multimodal.
So the one, yeah, Sam, I think got governance, what is it? It was like collective distributed governance or collective-wise governance. But the rest of them were collective distributed intelligence. Does anyone have a preference? Now we weigh the two, which one? Anyone have any thoughts?
On governance.
Yeah, go ahead, Judge Mender.
Which number is governance?
So what is the next step, Lauren?
Okay, so I think we have, I mean, from what we've done now, it seems like number one from this exercise was context awareness. Number two was collective distributed intelligence. And now we're looking for number three. So does anyone see patterns? There's maybe it's dancing among clarity, inquiry, and mystery. What do you think?
Yeah, dancing appears 3 times.
That and also appreciative thinking or appreciation, I think.
Appreciative thinking appears 4 times.
Yeah.
Oh. And why don't we, I think that wins over dancing among clarity.
Which was it?
Appreciative thinking.
Appears 4 times.
And did my vote get recorded? For that's the 2 I have chose so far, appreciative and context.
Colin.
Yeah, so those actually
so
get
number one, this is what we have so far. Hang on just a second.
Yeah, if you're not aware, I think Lauren's putting it at the top of the document, kind of a ranked order.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of the website where you go to make a word pie?
No.
It lets you make a word pie and choose the arrangement and color scheme. And you supply the list of words, and that's all it does, all the background graphics. I don't know. Actually, it might not be called word pie, it's called word something.
Word cloud.
That's what it is. Yeah, word cloud. Thank you.
Now, yeah, Charles.
Can I just quickly chime in? Hi, everyone. I'm listening. I'm sort of, my attention is pulled in another direction, but just because I'm taking a couple of notes in regard to like how we might use this to iterate the process and just learn from it and do it better and smoother and whatever for next time, should there be a next time here or elsewhere. And I kind of heard in passing just now a phrase which made me think about seeing patterns within the pattern selection, or within, so in terms of articulating the process and iterating that articulation, then maybe that's a useful thing just to frame what's going on here. So sorry to interrupt, but yeah, a meta note, seeing patterns within the patterns. Thanks.
That's super meta.
Okay, so to be even more meta, sorry, never mind.
Okay, so are we happy with number 1, context awareness, number 2, collective distributed intelligence, number 3, appreciative thinking? Does that sound right? Are they out of order? Are these the right phrases, do you think?
Why don't we go with it? Because all this whole exercise is predicated on limited time, right? So given more time, we probably would have come up with a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Given
think
the
it's like
time,
one good version. Yeah, it's like a good version. Yeah, among
Okay.
good enough for
possible.
now.
Okay, how about this? And why don't we take the exercise that we did, and I'm so sorry, Sam, I forgot while you were talking to write down your points. So can we kind of like summarize in just a minute and just have someone say it so I can record it, you know, so I can just like take that out super fast and we'll have like a summary. This is what this group is about.
Would you like to do it?
And maybe also thinking of context awareness, collective distributed intelligence, and appreciative thinking.
Sorry, I got disconnected for a second. Did you already do it?
No. So just let you know, we're trying to sum up in like 1 minute. What does this group do using what we've learned from these like, you know, context awareness, collective distributed intelligence, appreciative thinking, and the round robin that we did in terms of why everyone comes here.
So we're gonna do a round where each of us answer that in 1 minute. So
I thought that Lauren was asking for one person to summarize it in 1 minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you do it, Lauren, since you've heard this whole entire conversation?
Oh, will someone else do it? Because I have to work so hard during the like presenting. How about someone else do it?
Here's my thought on that. I didn't see in this list of 100 quote unquote patterns many of the themes that we actually do talk about here in GCC and barn raising. So I think that the GCC and barn raising intersects these 100 patterns in some way, but I don't think you can pick out of these 100 items a set of things that then represents what GCC barn raising does. That's the only difficulty I have with this exercise.
You know, maybe that's the real essence that we have been inventing new patterns here in terms of you know, maybe we should go with that. That kind of feels right as well. Coexistence. I don't know if coexistence falls under any of these other things. Agreements and disagreeing well.
and co-visioning was the word that came up as number 1 on the previous poll we did.
What coexistence means to me, it's like the magnet that keeps you honest. Because if you're not planning on coexisting, you're planning on building fences and nations and borders and me first.
So I think agreements is really important.
Yeah, did the word agreement even appear on this 100 list?
I did not see that.
Nope, it appears 0 times on that list.
Okay.
Does understanding appear on that list?
Yes, well, it's a
It
version
appears
of it.
1 time, bringing understanding to life.
Yeah.
The word dialogue appears once in that list. And the word conversation appears twice. So there's use of the word dialogue and conversation. Visionary appears once. Choice appears once.
Is there anything that looks like co-visioning?
Well, let's see. Systems thinking. Life enhancing enoughness. Bringing understanding to life. Multiple perspective view.
Maybe it falls under the umbrella of collective distributed intelligence. But, yeah, it doesn't seem to.
Collective wise oversight of governance. Context awareness. Okay, so I'm actually very curious how they evolved this list. I'd be curious to see how it looks from a systemic standpoint. It looks to me like 100 ideas gathered from N people, and I'm wondering whether or not there was a more systemic way of coming up with this list. It's not criticism. I just don't understand how it came about yet.
No, and I think criticism is fine too. It's maybe we can look at this and make more sense of this list.
You know, I do think that if we harvested the hundreds or thousands of hours in GCC, we'd probably have a pretty good list, except it's very expensive to harvest that.
Yes.
What if we focus on just the top 3 or 4 and take a round on that? Just because at least there we have some things that all of us were interested in.
Right.
In order to make sense of the data, you need an awful lot of it. And we've only got a tiny bit to play with, so you know, at least we've got a human brain just to sort it out, rather than let the machine do the work.
So can I note that it's about 90 minutes in, so can we take another 4 or 5 minutes to bring this section to a close and then go into a retrospective about today's session?
Yeah. Will anyone be willing to just do like a 1 minute, and actually could I, okay, yeah, I'm gonna record on my computer so that will make it faster for me and I can just upload that. Sam, will you just do a 1 minute recap looking at what everyone said?
Why me? I prefer it to be not me because I speak too much in the group already.
Who else wants to go? I don't want to do it.
Somebody whose
I
voice.
could try.
Yeah. You do it, Glenn.
There you have the list. Context awareness, collective distributed intelligence, appreciative thinking. It's a way of thinking where we appreciate each other, our qualities. This also includes appreciating the context. We build collective distributed intelligence when we're together because we learn together. And that builds an understanding between us and an appreciation of each other and ourselves. And there's an evolution, which I don't know if was on the list, but
Can't keep doing that.
I think that's some of the main themes. Clearly, what we're doing here is like an engine for moving that forward.
Okay, was that good?
Well, from my point of view, we set out to do an exercise. We picked up 100 words from some list somewhere, which seemed to have very little relevance on what we do here. As an exercise of picking up ideas and trying to set them out in order of importance, I think that's a pretty good exercise. It hasn't given us anything to work with in the future. It's an exercise we have to do to find our values and list them in some sort of order. I'm complete.
So is it helpful or not helpful?
Is it healthy to reveal our unselfish desires? You know, but at least it helps us have some reflection on where we desire the group to go, what direction we desire the group to head in. The result of those word lists can help us see where the focus is pointing, I guess. So that's always a useful thing to have on the compass. It shows you where you're going and you can look back and see where you've been. To use a cliche.
When I did the list, because I was alone in my breakout group, I was referring to what was said before, because I was not part of the conversation till now. So I heard what everybody said in the round, and I was referring to that, what I heard there, and then I clicked on the, or took the numbers. So, so I think it's a double conversation. Why are we here? And the other one, what are we doing here? And so I was referring to why are we here? So, and I think there was a mix. So that's why it's a little bit fuzzy.
I think that's valid though. You listen to what we said and then you use that to choose.
Pardon?
I said, I think that's valid because you listen to a round of what everyone was saying they come here for, and then you help pick out the things that you thought were relevant to that. So I think that's helpful.
Yeah, that was my only possibility to relate to it, and so it was a little bit different than what each and everyone picked who was here for a while. So that's what I got out.
So are we still in discussion of this, or are we in the retrospective section now? Because if we're moving into retrospective. Okay, can I start with my 3 standard questions then?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that are not here before, that might be just you, Gertrude. I put up 3 questions. I leave each up for about 20 seconds each. So if you decide not to vote after 20 seconds, that opportunity is lost. And then we discuss those answers as well as any other feedback. So the first question is coming up. The first question is, did we focus on a topic? And here we go, 20 seconds. Ten more seconds. 5 more seconds. Okay, now I'm about to put up the second question. The second question is, did the moderator's moderation help keep us focused? 16 more seconds. Who closed the question? I didn't close it. Interesting. For some reason,
you know what? Maybe I'm a moderator and I'm doing something.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I thought that it just disappeared. Okay, so anyway, let me put up the second question and give you a little bit more time again. Although I might lose the initial results. What do you think?
We all vote again.
All right, let me put up the second question again and give you the full 20 seconds, okay? I'm gonna relaunch the second question.
There's only 8 of us here, so we can do it manually.
There's 7 voters because unfortunately I, as a host, cannot vote.
I don't think I can vote either.
Oh, because you're co-host?
I guess so.
That means Charles cannot vote either because I also made him co-host today.
Anyway.
Okay, that's the end of the second period for the second question. Sorry, Alex. And then I'm going to put up the third question now. The third question is, did we co-create with focus? Here we go for 20 seconds. Ten more seconds. 5 more seconds. Time is up. Okay, now I'm going to share the results of the first question. So the first question was, did we focus? And I'm going to share the results here. We had 4 voters. 4 yeses, 0 nos. Okay, so I'm going to share the results of the second question, which is about moderation. There were 5 votes, 5 yeses, 0 nos. And then I'm going to share the results of the third question, co-creation. Did we co-create with focus? We had 4 votes, 4 yeses, 0 nos. So that's the summary of the polling results. So clearly there were some abstentions. I want to make no assumptions about what that meant. So who would like to discuss?
I want to say something about the sample size of the vote, especially in labs where they do statistical analysis and risk analysis. They use weight the results of those analysis on the sample sizes of the research. So when we've got a sample size as small as this, only 8 people, 7 people voting, it's really a exercise in futility, but it's fun.
Any other comments? Let me add a couple of thoughts. I thought it was valuable in that I was not previously aware of this list of 100 patterns in wise democracy. So it actually is something I'll probably look into a bit more. If I had the time and the inclination, I would probably try to merge our own lists. Now, some of you who were not here last November may not be aware that we did a similar survey back then about what the top memes or ideas or words or phrases were that people felt defined or characterized GCC, and in particular barn raising. So there was an interesting exercise, I felt, where I went through and I picked out the most commonly selected terms, and there were things like co-visioning and coexistence, if I recall correctly. And so I created a map of how all these different ideas, or at least the ones that are commonly voted on, related to each other. And I don't have the link directly with me, but I'll share it later on. So I actually think that this list of 100 kind of looked at in context with that other survey / diagram / recreation would be an interesting exercise. And I will probably put it on my backlog for things to do. Over. No
How
one
do you
else?
think we could? How do you think we could go about? How do you think we could design a process that would do this better?
Use a project system of cards and websites. Some Facebook pages you go to have units to complete. That'd be a good way, because that gives people a time, a week or so, to evaluate the list and then come back with a definitive answer. Over.
And I'd love to see each of your lists, if they can be formed in a way you really happy about, and where you have made clear what you mean. That would be very valuable. And that could also be really good to have in a profile. It's like what is each person's list with their own understanding of what that list means. Then at least we'll have some pretty good data to begin from. What do you think about that, John?
I love it.
May I offer 2 more thoughts? Oh, Ties, go ahead.
I would revise the whole list of 100 in groupings first, so make 7 groupings, but then it needs some intelligence to get it in 7 groupings, because then it's easier to pick and then to decide further. So then to make it less, if it's
that's putting it into a funnel. That's a good idea. A sieve, one funnel goes into another and into another until the ultimate 3 or 4 words come out the bottom.
Yeah, Kayla.
Interesting that I didn't see the word love on here, did I?
No, it wasn't.
Empathy is inside. Empathy, but we did decide. We did decide.
Yeah, Kayla.
Any chance this can be like a 2-part barn raising meeting? You know, start it this week and then maybe next week elaborate a little bit more on that, because I know time is of an essence, and I liked everything on that list. I just needed a little bit more time to let it digest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great. I would kind of love to you know, go into the list more and see what are our thoughts on these lists, and see if we can get it into an order that we think is easier to deal with. Because for me, the language wasn't necessarily completely accessible for doing this exercise. Some I didn't really know what they were talking about, like you'd have to read into it more. And I too thought they needed to be in groupings.
So 2 more small thoughts. One is that in addition to this map that I referred to in November, something else we've also done in barn raising is to go through the list of behaviors. And so some of you know what I meant. I referred to it earlier. There's about 88 items on that list about when it's appropriate to interrupt. Should we do check-ins? Should we do checkouts? Should we take notes? Should we not take notes? Should we record? Should we not record? All that sort of thing. There's about 88 items. So that's a much finer grain version of how we show up. And then secondly, there's another list, which is the United Nations SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I think there's about 17 or so of them. And Heiner refers to them quite a bit. So there's another mapping we could do about what do those represent for us. Governance, I think, is one of those.
Sam,
What?
Sam,
What?
you're going to be super excited. So this woman, Libya Servin, she's from Guadalajara, and she has this paper that she uses with something like 9 symbols on it. And those are the agreements that a group has come to over time. Now on the paper,
Excuse me a second. I'm about to fall on the floor.
And so, like, if someone is behaving in such a way that's causing some disruption, all she has to do is point to the picture. She uses symbols. They're like 9 symbols. And so, like, if someone is just yapping on and on, it's like, yeah, we know, we understand, we get it. She just points to the picture of the plane, and that symbolizes land the fucking plane. And so she has these symbolizers. One is a toothbrush, and it symbolizes a habit. So either it's a habit, you're like, oh, you're getting into that habit again, or, oh, excuse me, it's just a habit. So using these symbols, she says, makes, like, cuts down the crap and increases the efficiency of any group, just to have, like, just to create these symbols around the agreements. And then easily you can just, you know, you can just, like, put up a picture like this. You know, you can do the Josh thing and put it in your background or something, but we can start using these symbols to communicate and refer to agreements that we've already made.
Yeah, that's actually quite good. But the key clause there is that we've already made. So we're still trying to get there. So
oh, so you haven't come to the agreements? There are 88 still?
There are 80 of, and people are basically indicating, I think there's about 12 or 13 of us who've individually gone in and say, these are the ones that I subscribe to, these are the ones that I choose not to subscribe to. And we've made no imposition of these. We're just letting people explicate how it is they want to show up. That's the state of that particular spreadsheet. And I think I put it in the bottom of that Google Doc that we just worked on today. Okay. So if you click on that, you'll see who's responded to it and who hasn't, and what those 88 behavior patterns are that are a little bit more fine-grained than the ones that we see here in this values, or sorry, in this wise democracy list.
I think that would be worth a session to choose among these and then make up little symbols for them.
Okay, so here's an opportunity. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, sorry. Kayla is on deck for next week. So Kayla can do whatever she wants next week. And beyond that, I have 2 or 3 others. I have Robert Best, who also indicated an interest in a session, and I have myself, who has not yet taken a session. But if you'd like to do a part 3 or a part 2.1 of this particular process, that's also possible.
Mm-hmm.
And Lauren, I'm okay with giving up next week if you want to do that so it's fresh in our minds.
Yeah, I mean,
only if you take the following week, Kayla.
Yeah, you know,
I have no method for doing it. I would just like to do it as a group, but I mean, I'm, you know, it's not like I have a thing to follow or anything.
Yeah, and I'm game for the following week. That's fine. That actually might be better because my kids will be gone. So
They don't seem to be bothering you now.
no, they're gone this week. Next weekend, you know, they've planned a sleepover with like 10 boys and. Yeah.
Oh, you get the other challenge. I sometimes have sleepovers with like 4 girls, which feel like 10 boys.
I just wanted to quickly chime in. Hi, everyone. I'm back for just the tail end. I'm sorry I had to jump out for another call. I don't know if there's, if and when there's some context to update me, it would be cool. Or maybe I'm in the midst of that.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the retrospective session, and we did have a vote. I don't know if you were here for the vote of 3 questions. And we're in the process of deciding how to follow up. So the current discussion is between Kayla and Lauren, whether Lauren wants to do another week to sort of pull some of this together, and then Kayla is willing to do the following Saturday, 2 weeks from today. That's the current proposal on the table.
Thanks. So in terms of the exercise, we're sort of still in it then, is that? Yeah.
No, we're not in the exercise. We're talking about how the exercise went.
Got
And
it.
so a lot of people expressed that we didn't have enough time. The descriptions were too short. We didn't actually have a way to really count, you know, we didn't have a way to really understand. And so the proposal is for next week, Lauren and you to take a part 3, if you choose to do so. And then Kayla is willing to do 2 weeks from today. I feel repetitive.
Okay, so the group, what would be more helpful? What do you think would be more helpful next week to go further into defining what this group is about, or using the behaviors and defining, like in a list, what are the most important behaviors we value?
I have a little idea. What if we build on the profiles that you have in your first, and then we put on that the list of words we choose, and then we also put on the behaviors, and then when the profiles are really good, including obviously from last week, which was the peer appreciation, then when we have all that, then kind of maybe what the group is about will just be apparent at that point. Does that make sense?
I like this. I would second that generally. I don't know where the profiles are at, but that's kind of still at the core as I see it.
You want to quickly look at the profile? Should I just share my screen? Everyone can go on Miro. I don't know if I posted the link at the very top. Can everyone access that?
If you've got the profile of questions and answers into a spreadsheet from not only our forum but from various different forums on the leading edge, you know, on Enlivening Edge and Integral and quite a few others, that would then you'd be able to use that spreadsheet to zero in on the people who are focused with the similar visions. It'd show them up immediately at the top of the list. And if the items on that list were weighted according to a value, it'd make it easier for the AI.
It's not so much about visions, values. Yes, I would just interject in terms of the interoperability or the practical aspect of these profiles. Vision is good, but I think what are people doing or what do they want to do? That's my 2 cents.
Can you like share the screen now, for example, and we can
Yeah.
look a little at the profiles?
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Maybe we'll have some, you know, feedback on the fly. And
Here we go. And if you, I gave you the, also the links are in the chat, so you can go look in here yourself and play all the videos as well. So this is what I did here. Let me make it smaller. I'm sorry. My computer is going pretty slow. So this is what it looks like. Here are the different, the videos are there, rough cuts. And so I just kind of pulled out the word cloud from each one. And then I just made up a role with 2 words or so, 2 or 3 words. And maybe you can give me feedback on whether this sounds correct, because some of the roles I couldn't quite get right away. So for Sam, I had collaborologist, technologist, and again, we can think of new ones, and you know, so it's just my initial idea, and these are the words that are mentioned are under there, and then there's a video. So Josh was bridged to everywhere, because it seems like there were so many things saying he has all these interests, and he, you know, just dives into so many things, and he's a connector. Let's see. So Colin, I did not, I couldn't make sense of these together in order to come up with a good role for Colin. If anyone can make sense out of these words, it would be great.
this is really awesome stuff.
But I don't know, the kind of the point is that if someone comes and they've never been here before, they can jump in, look at this, and even in like 2 minutes, kind of get a sense what everyone's role is in the group. So making rapid sense of what's going on. So it really helped me.
Looks like you did a heck of a lot of work here, Lauren.
Yeah, amazing work. So what if we like continued going through the profiles, and then let's say each person should say what they think about how they're portrayed, or if, for example, that could be added as well, and we could use all this. I mean, this really seems like it's a beginning, but it's, I mean, if we really build on it, that would
for sure.
be incredibly valuable. This is incredibly valuable stuff.
It looks like we're all going to go and click on some of this. We may not want to do this all together unless you guys choose otherwise. But since we're at the top of the hour, can I just conclude that Lauren, Charles, you guys are going to take next week, and Kayla will take the session 2 weeks from today? Can we move forward with that plan? Okay,
Yeah.
without dissent.
I'm cool.
I'm game.
Okay, there we have it. I think we have an agreement. All right.
Not so quick. I'm still waiting for Josh, and I've got
Josh
I've got
decided
find-
not to take today.
Right.
So he had an opportunity
he-
today.
I think he said that. I don't know what he said, but
Is there
okay.
really deep thinker? Sorry.
I think Josh is here. Josh, do you want to put yourself on the list? Because Josh asked me to not keep him on the backlog.
Okay, that's another thing I didn't know.
Yeah.
He just has a lot of difficulty shuffling. And Lauren, I think a
Yeah.
long time ago, I picked my role as an Imagineer.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. And yeah, I'll have to follow up on this list. I thought today I wasn't going to have so much participation, but sounds like some good links. And I can't figure out how to save it on this phone, the chat. Phones are much more limited, it seems, with Zoom. Anyway, thanks.
These lists
Just
are
for the
from
record,
peer
everything
reviews,
in
Sean.
the chat will go into the Google Doc that I create when I finally announce this session.
I would really like some help on the title for Jaswinder. Oh, I know what Jaswinder is. He's the pot stirrer. Do you think? Is that a good one?
What was that?
Came up to me.
What do you call it?
These are the words: fresh air, unique background. Oh wait, this is Kayla right here. I actually made a mistake. So let's see. I put Jaswinder's video, which should be Kayla's. Hang on just a second. Oh, I did that twice actually.
Oh my.
Okay, so Kayla, this is you. The words that came up were fresh air, unique background, young, sparkly, spirit of a dancer, on border, guider of newbies, deep listener, polymath, good vibes, attractive, knowledgeable, adventurous dancer, goodness, do the right thing, and positive energy. So I just put air freshener because it just what came to my mind. Is there something else that you, Kayla, or someone else can think of?
Oh, you're too kind. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. By the way, I'm not that young. I know I act young, but I'm not that young. But I like it. Keep it.
Is Charles here?
Yeah, I am. I'm not even muted. Yes.
For your thing, I came up with vibes and scribes, but I'm
It's
sure you
cool.
can come up with something better.
That's pretty cool. Thank you.
Okay. For me and the words on the list, I came up with, actually Carlos came up with connector executor. And for Tice, I think this could be made better, was listener reflector. Does anything else come to mind with these words?
No comment.
Observer, maybe? It's kind of a listener.
Observationer. The
Observer and
observationer,
listener and reflection.
he sits in the cockpit next to the navigator.
Yeah, I
The
mean, it's
Dutch
definitely,
mainly,
I like
I have to add something. The Dutch in the European Union mainly take the role of secretary, but they don't like to write much. So somehow the secretary function is for the Dutch the role that we like to take.
that you like to take?
I don't know. I don't know.
So what title would be good then? Should we have secretary in the title?
No title. No title.
Assistant to the secretary.
I mean, these aren't official titles. These are just like little roles that you play within the group. These are not like official, like a treasurer or something like this.
Little nicknames.
So
Are these like little nicknames that you give people in high school, like Clark Kent, or like
No,
little
I think
things to?
it's
see?
more like the role in this group, right? Or
Yeah, role in this group, exactly.
so far or something. Because then I really like observer,
Like-
listener, reflector, or vice. But it's just
because I mean, it needs to
Like little
reflect.
things that stick with you that they call you later on just because, you know, it was cute at first, but then it's not funny. And then later they tease you. And when you pee your pants in 3rd grade and they call you pants peer person or something like that.
no, I think it's more the role, right? They're
And
playing.
Sam, for you, is collaborologist, technologist okay with you?
I like the collaborology aspect of it. I think technology focuses me a bit too much on one side. I like to be more co-evolutionary than that. But, you know, everything's workable. Everything is a work in progress. So it's fine for now.
Co-evolutionary collaborologist.
That's I like that too.
Yeah, I like that also.
Co-evolutionary feels central to you, Sam, isn't it?
Co-evolutionary collaborologist. That's a lot of syllables, but it works.
That's a really good one.
I don't like having the word evolution in the title because we're all evolving anyway. I mean, if we're not evolving, what are we doing? Evolving, what are we doing?
So co-evolutionist what?
No,
Gary,
evolutionary.
yeah. Charles got it.
Co-evolutionary collaborologist.
Without the hyphen. I don't think the hyphen is unnecessary.
Maybe you should write just Sam before it. Then it's like easier to see who you talk about. I don't
It's
know.
it's on the video. I could do that,
Yeah.
but I don't need to do that now.
No, not possibly. That's a great name.
You need a hyphen after co.
I think it's unnecessary myself.
Josh, are you okay with bridge to everywhere?
I have to apologize. I just got onto the call, so maybe you can give me quick context if you don't mind. I'm sorry. I know it's late
Sure.
and you guys are ending.
No, it's fine. So we're I'm just going through the profile. So I shared the link to the mural board where you can see all the profiles of everyone that we did last week. And so they're rough cuts, but they are online. They're I made them unlisted on YouTube because we're going to make better ones and post those. But this is what I could do for this session. And so I gave everyone a role of 1 or 2 words based on the word cloud that they generated. And yours, Josh, was bridge to everywhere because almost everyone said multi-interest, bridge, multi-perspective, full spectrum, multi-dimensional, well-rounded. So that's how I came up with bridge to everywhere. Are you okay with that?
I don't really understand the context, meaning like, is this something that's going to be on its own standalone YouTube video and that would be the name and something that would be searchable by that? I'm just trying to understand what this name is. It something that's like a nickname that I get stuck with? I don't know.
So I mean, yeah, so I guess I would just write that in the description on YouTube or Vimeo, or you could have it unlisted.
I would actually just to chime in and say, Joshua, actually, you're articulating that question. I would say whether that's correct for yours at the moment or not, that's a good idea to sort of have that in the title of the video with the name and the title and something else. But go ahead, Lauren.
I don't know. All I know is if we're all doing something. Let's just make sure it's 100% clear, so no one gets pissed off later on. So,
Well,
as
that's
long
why
as
I
I don't,
posted it
whatever
on
you're
here for
doing,
you to
Lauren, I
look.
trust you. I'm sure you've got good intentions, so you can call me poo-poo head. I don't care. Call me anything you want. I'm just saying it doesn't matter.
Josh, if you don't want that name, why don't we just say Joshua Bridge and observations from peers? Like, because if you don't want to be reduced to one name, we don't need it, right? Okay.
I don't know if we're playing a game. I don't know if this is serious. I don't
It
know
is
where it's
serious.
being posted.
I think we're sort of looking at
I have a
profiling.
reputation online of just being whatever. Like, in other words, as long as you're not doing anything defacing anybody here, it sounds fine. Like, I don't even know where you're posting it. I don't know what it's going to do later. I know
Okay,
you think it's funny, Lauren, but I'm just saying I've been on the internet for a long time, and all of a sudden it's 5 years from now or something comes up. I'm trying to understand if I'm agreeing to something. Like when I press that button anytime I'm on the internet and it says, do you agree? I try to understand what I'm agreeing to. Like, do you agree that you're giving Lauren's
Josh,
information?
I'm trying to explain, but you keep talking. Okay, let me just explain.
Go ahead.
So right now, this is just on the Miro board. I have posted these unlisted on YouTube so that you can look at them. You can see if there's anything that you'd like to take out. We're going to be, if you approve of the content and the title, which you can make up your own kind of title, then we'll post them. We'll do them a little bit better and post them on Vimeo. So now is the time to take a look at it, check it out, and make sure everything is okay. And last week, everyone agreed that it was okay if I posted these online. Let me know if that's not okay.
Okay, can you send me the link so I can check that out?
Sure. Can you find the link in the chat, or is it not there?
Coming late, it's not there. So if you could post it, that would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
basically,
sure.
basically, these are really only then experimental documents that we co-create together here as a game. These are observations that have been said. It's only good, positive things. That's one of the rules. And so then obviously we're not committing to anything at all. It's just, we're just playing around and creating a document, but we're playing around with this idea of profile, which has been one of those themes that almost everybody has expressed an interest in. So I think maybe that's a context. Would you feel good about that, Josh? Like, is that a way of seeing it that kind of fits in with does that make sense?
Why don't we give Josh a chance to take a look at it, and then he can decide whether he wants it posted or not.
I just want to say, Glenn, thank you. And that was really accurate from my view, especially the first half or more. You nailed it as far as articulating from my side.
Yeah.
Also, just again, everyone has full control over this. So if something on there makes you feel uncomfortable, this is not to like check you out and to, reveal something that you don't want to reveal. So you have total control. If something's on there that you don't really like, or for any reason at all, just let me know and I will take it off.
I just want to reiterate also, because I was present last week, more present in terms of my focus, and but we did take we checked, and everybody said, yes, it's okay to put this unlisted on YouTube. That was an agreement that we agreed on at the time.
Actually, everyone okayed to just put it live, and I put it unlisted.
Okay, very good. Then, okay, just, yeah, so we're clear.
It's locked in. Your answer gets locked in forever, and you can't change it. So
it's not locked in. We're giving everyone a chance to basically express another opinion. That's what Charles and Lauren have been doing for the last 10 minutes or so. So it's not locked in concrete, please.
I believe that was a joke, Sam, that Alex made. It was being...
Really?
I'm not sure.
Sorry.
That was Alex golden nugget?
I would say in general, maybe this is a useful another 20-second comment that, and I don't know how, maybe it's the same over here at GCC with the repository and videos, and I've caught wind of some of this back and forth, but generally, Lauren and I with the recordings say, you know, if there's something, and also at Metacogs and other groups, if something comes up you don't want in the video, we'll take it out, and then we'll do the best we can. But you know, given all these sort of platforms, it's not airtight, unfortunately, but it's okay. We cut it out. Simple. Over.
Also, just for the record, since about late last year, September-ish, we did announce and agree that we were making all of these videos available on the public playlist. So that was already agreed. So people know that when they show up here.
Yes.
So maybe we can move on, because I mean, again, I'm maybe zooming in a little bit out of context, and Joshua, you came late, but I think you were having question, let's say concern perhaps about this specific content, and if you didn't have time to sort of check it out or process, then that's fine, but I don't think we need to get into the particulars at the moment about that, perhaps.
No, I think it's fine. Thank you. I just checked it out, so I didn't know what you were talking about. But once I clicked on the board and looked at what you're doing, then I got context. So thank you so much. I understand where it's going to be posted and what you're going to do with it. I don't know, but I'll find out. And I trust you guys. So don't worry. It's all good.
And again, you know, all feedback is really, really welcome. Negative feedback too, because it helps us refine our process and get, like, if there's something that you feel can bring a better result or something about the process that you didn't like, it's great for us to know that.
So could we say that this is like an appreciation-based profile experiment of sorts? We're sort of experimenting with seeing qualities and skills that each of us have and highlighting those. Because that is something I know you talked about, just highlighting the best works that other people do. I think this is maybe there's a connection to that, between that and this profiling experiment.
I would just add yes, and thank you again. I love your languaging, Glenn. But maybe something slightly missing if we're using this as the kind of total frame, because we're onto something that's iterative that we've been really developing and refining. So there's actually some basis. It's not just a total experiment.
What's
yeah,
the
it's like many
intention,
things.
There's people amongst us who can end up with a group that can be shared amongst other groups, and those people in other groups will come to our attention as well via that process, I think. So that's a great way to expand the pool of knowledge and to get people linked up with.
Yeah, that would be the point. So next week,
For sure.
I'm going to add the work we did this week to our group profile, and we'll come back to it again and see if that helps sense make our group a little bit more. And the hypothesis is that if we do this and we do this peer production process among, we might start with 5 groups. Does that help us make more sense of what's going on and how these groups are different and what their overlaps are? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to scale this up. So we're trying to find ways to peer produce this and scale it. But it helps any feedback that makes it faster, more efficient, more clear. Anything helps a lot.
Yeah, along those lines, Lauren and Charles, what are the other groups that you are in the process of profiling?
We'll most likely do Metacogs, and David Boville has a small group which kind of overlaps again with Metacogs, and I don't know, I have a DAO group, a DAO governance group, and you know, we could just kind of spread out to neighboring groups around us.
Okay, cool. It's networking the networks.
I have about, I've got a group that's called the Chris Hedges Supporters Facebook page. And that's got about 800 members. So I could put a post up there inviting some of them to come and have a.
Hang on, I'm sorry, my battery died on my phone, so I'm back. But I think before we get into like particular groups, because there's millions that we could do that. I'm sorry if I cut you off. But Lauren, I'm sorry if I cut out at the wrong moment. Can you just tell me what's happening, please?
Oh, I don't know.
Ask both of us, and then my battery died like on point. So I'm here. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, so we were just talking about how this is a hypothesis that it could help discovery amongst the different change maker groups. And so what we're doing is trying to find ways of quickly discovering what groups are doing, what groups are out there, where the overlaps are, and what the offers of each group are, and what are their needs.
For sure. And sorry, the
So
question.
the hypothesis is that it will help us somehow to do this.
Absolutely, but so the question.
We don't know if that's actually going to work. Maybe it's just a pointless exercise, but we'll find out.
The question I heard when I got cut off was what other groups have we profiled? But actually, this is the first one as a group, if I understand. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Laura answered that the Metacogs is probably another one that you'll do.
Yeah, we didn't approach it formally like that yet, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we get to be the guinea pigs. We're on the forefront.
Thank you again for that. Yeah, it's great.
Right.
You know, I do think that says a lot about this group, that it is a group where you could do an experiment like this. So I think that's a really positive sign and something that's really good about this group. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for saying that, because one of my memes, sorry, Glenn, is get comfortable with imperfection. So
with what?
With imperfection. Be comfortable with imperfection.
That's why I'm here.
Exactly. Because it's like this space which we can just test things out and everything is written in electrons. We're just making sense together, sharing various things together.
That's right.
Right? So that's the way we grow, then we learn, because we go outside of our habitual things and we just say this is a sort of wild space, and we just, you know, show respect to each other, and then we can have that sort of wild space. That's sort of what feels connected to all that.
Right.
Shifting the collective discomfort to the collective comfort.
Yeah, being able to learn and evolve through that, you know, whatever comes up. That's sort of the magic of it all.
Have you guys all watched the movie The Princess Bride? To me, it's one of the best movies in the entire world ever made. But there's a moment which the two sword fighters, if you guys know the characters, one actually, you know, engages the other, and both very impressed with each other's skill. And one says to the other, "Your skills are remarkable," or something like that. "I must know who you are. Please, what is your name?" And the other guy says something like, "I'm not going to tell you, or get used to disappointment." I'm sorry, I'm not paraphrasing it well right now, so it's not very funny. But the point is, this discomfort is something that I'm hoping we actually lean into rather than not. Because if we're too comfortable, then we're not out there exploring the edges sufficiently, I would say.
That is one of the, you know, in my sort of dipping in and out, you know, oh, I'm getting some echo. I'm not sure what's somebody's volume's up. Could you mute, please? Anyway, sorry. As I'm able to kind of periodically take a, you know, temperature barometer, the kind of leaning into the discomfort seems like one of the themes of the GCC flow. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and then in the shifting of the discomfort to the comfort, you know, sort of on the individual level. I mean, that's our work, whether we, you know, choose it or not. You know, that's what we're here to do, I would say, in a lot of ways, and not just here at GCC, but in general on the planet, and then connecting in you know, incrementally or through other whatever process to the collective respective discomfort to the comfort. You know, I don't know. It's just kind of maybe that's totally vague and meta, but that's what I'm just seeing as a kind of visual, individual to collective level, and discomfort to comfort, kind of intersecting those somehow. Over messy over it.
So by the way, I think there are different categories or types of discomfort. And I want to make sure that we explore that too, because there's triggers, which is one range of things. And then there's actually, you know, semantic disagreements. And they're probably not on opposite ends, but there's probably a big space to all of this. So, you know, it's a question to each of us whether we want to lean into individual triggers or lean into semantic disagreements. And we each probably have different approaches to all of that. But the point is that if we don't exhibit that curious understanding or the will to understand, then we vote with our feet and we walk away. And in the theme of trying to understand, I think walking away is not one of the best ways to understand. So that's one of the memes that I think we're exploring here in GCC and barn raising. To me. Over. So let me at least say that we've actually gone quite a bit beyond the top of the hour, but I think it's been good to sort of have this retrospective section to this particular session. Let me at least say that the part of the session here today that's the experiment should be probably concluded, but I'll leave the session open as long as people want to continue exploring these ideas or exploring future ideas for future sessions, or even just, you know, covering other topics. So at this point, I'm definitely now stepping off as moderator. We're all now in a town square.
Thank you. I'll take my lead. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Are you putting your hand up or waiting?
I would like to say that I put in 3 links. One is for the word cloud, to how to gather what Alex was talking about. And then I don't know if you know the Value Center or the Barrett Values. That's an interesting thing to, also a list that you can fill out and get a summary back. And doing Speak Green. This is how to change language from the normal to another way of, yeah. So world occurs in language and it can only change in language. That's what I. Yeah, and thank you very much. It was an interesting experiment for me without knowing anything what you're doing and all the last session. And so, yeah, thank you very much, and have a good time. And I tried to come Saturdays, but it mostly didn't work. So I think it's good to be there on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, you're a little bit.
Just come when you can,
lost.
Gertrude. That'd be great.
What?
Just come when you can.
Yeah, that works too. People can just.
Yeah.
So I would like to, because I think it's valuable to really tickle.
By the way, for Gertrude, riffing on one of the ideas.
It was kind of a meta level today. Yeah, it's good to see you all and to come to know Charles and Lauren.
And Gertrude, I'm riffing off of one of the ideas you mentioned, which is in this list of 100 patterns. Maybe I didn't read it carefully enough, but I think this whole notion of disambiguation and clarifying what we mean by the words we use, to me is a big thing in barn raising, and I didn't see something in this list that mapped to that idea. So I think that's essential, basically, to sense making. And to the extent that we in GCC and barn raising are doing that mutual sense making business, I think disambiguation is crucial. Over.
Yeah, and Claudia, who did the Speak Green thing, she is, she says, for example, in business, it's more the military language, like chief executive officer or so, and so she tried to change that narrative for more like self management and to be together in another way. And so I think it's worth looking at.
Sam, if, I don't know if we're going towards the end here, but while I remember it, the question came up earlier where you really expressed a passionate interest that you've had lately. And I would certainly love if you're willing to share a little bit about that.
I'm willing to. It's going to get quite geeky, so I want to make sure everybody has a chance to talk about whatever they want to talk about before I launch into that, though.
Well, I would like to mention that I think you've already made it, Sam, about the fact that some of the things on the list were not mentioned very often, and looking at important things too. So looking at them will give us some kind of insight into the collection, how the collection was put together and what have you.
Yeah, I'm always interested in the derivation of lists like that. I was also interested in how that maps to the diagram that got put together between September and November, and also how that list maps to our behavioral experiment spreadsheet. So there's a lot of work to do some co-mapping there. Anybody else with any other topics before I go geeky? Okay, Glenn, what I was talking about was I used to be a software engineer decades ago. And for much of the last several decades, I've been at, roles in organizations which have kept me away from being hands-on software developer, even though I manage teams that do that quite a bit. So only since about the last 2-3 months have I had a real opportunity to get back and do some real coding and produce some apps, some utilities that actually do things, with data. And to me, it's extremely fun because back then, 20, 30 years ago, there were no such repositories for sharing code, such as GitHub or Clojars or any of a number of other places, repositories of shareable code. So back then you had to look at algorithms, you had to develop your own code, you had to copy other people's code, you had to learn the language on your own. YouTube didn't exist, so you had to look at books, you had to go to university, you had to take workshops and tutorials, you had to do these very, very painful exercises to actually learn languages. There were very few libraries you could use, so you had to code up a lot of stuff on your own. Today, it's a remarkably different world because now there's so many YouTube videos and people who have solved the same problem before that if you just look for what you want to do, chances are 90–95% that you're going to find it and somebody can actually lead you step by step through what you need to do. Also, courses are available very, very inexpensively, sometimes even free. And among technical engineers, software engineers, there's a sense of pride. There's a sense of contribution in putting something into the open source so other people can actually leverage it, can take advantage of the quality of work that you do. And because everything is visible and shared and nothing is hidden, the quality of your work is a point of pride for people. Sometimes in closed enterprises where nobody else looked at your work except maybe your manager and maybe your code reviewer, it's easy to get by with sloppy work. And in fact, a lot of sloppy work does get by. Just make it work and then just check it in and then move on to the next thing. That's what businesses kind of want, right? But if everything's out in the open for everyone in the world, some 16-year-old from Pakistan or some 12-year-old from Mumbai or some 14-year-old from Belarus can go and look at my code if it's checked into GitHub, and they can make small improvements. I just made a 1-character improvement to somebody else's documentation just this morning and checked it in. I've done that a few times now. So micro improvements like that can evolve the quality of the work that's out there. And that's something that I find fascinating. So some of the work that I've described myself being interested in, like this global simulation environment that I call Global Sim. We have a distributed knowledge repository, and people can each contribute, whether it's an observation or an interpretation or an entire PhD thesis or an entire working model, encoded at all levels of sophistication. When people share and make that available to others so that they can improve on it, or they can revise it, or they can put it together with other models and other pieces of knowledge and then insert their heuristics and their best practices. This is the world I was hoping to see back 11 years ago when I first coined this notion called Global Sim. And I'm finding that so much of the world has caught up to some of that thinking. The fact that, I don't know if you guys know what notebooks are. Notebooks were introduced 40 years ago by a company called Mathematica, because they had a way of mixing text with technical equations and what they call an execution engine that actually did symbolic mathematics. So the notion of network was how you present that work. So it was kind of an interactive book. So you could actually check an equation, you could actually execute it, you could actually insert another cell, you could actually make a revision on it. All of that work is now so useful and so fascinating, because if you take a look at, for example, the amount of data that's published for COVID and all the infections and the tests around the world, that is all public knowledge on a site called Kaggle, Kaggle. You've got hundreds, if not thousands of people taking that same knowledge and running their statistical analysis, their interpretations, their filters, and coming up with, hey, I see this pattern, or somebody else sees that pattern, and oh, I see this map. They can share all of that, and everybody's got access to every one of those notebooks and can make improvements on it. That I find is a fascinating world. I love that about these people that contribute just so that we can all learn together. In 2009, that was barely, a figment of the imagination, but I think we're very much taking steps towards that world. And I find that very fascinating. The other aspect that I find curious is 20, 30 years ago, I spent all my time learning a language, learning libraries, creating algorithms, testing my stuff. Today, because of this different world, 80, 90% of my time is researching on, believe it or not, YouTube and Google. Okay, so in software engineering, there used to be something called TDD, test-driven development. Basically, you write your tests so that you know that once all of these tests work, your work is done, you're complete. Well, now there's a tongue-in-cheek term called GDD, okay? It's Google-driven development. I Google stuff, that's how I learn, that's how I create, my software. And so that, along with TDD, allows us to create things really, really differently. The time I spend is like 10, 15% of the time actually coding, and 85 to 90% of my time learning what's out there and how to put it together. That's really fascinating shift in like 3 decades. Over. Sorry for that long rant.
That was wonderful, Sam. So are you really saying that you see a new science that is developing for a science of the commons, where we share knowledge openly, share data openly, share ideas openly, add them into a pool, everyone can see it, everyone can add possible improvements on everything else that's already there. This idea I had in mind a few years ago was a mind pool. And it's this mind pool of what we put into it. And then, as you say, since it's open, we want to add something valuable. So we have a pride in what we add, and we really try to add our best. And then, as you've also mentioned, everything is written in electrons. So, you know, you're never committed to a stupid understanding or a stupid idea or a program or a system or whatever. So therefore, we seem to have a framework for actually utilizing collective intelligence. And what I hear you saying is that this is already happening, and it's come very far. So yeah, that's what I hear.
It has come far. And I think that there's still many, many things that we can do to make that even richer. But I think it's really remarkable. Like anyone here, anybody on this session, anybody sitting anywhere can go to Kaggle and get the latest information on anything, whether it's population, whether it's disease, whether it's COVID, whether it's, you know, use of televisions, whether it's, you know, shopping cycles in Minneapolis, whatever. You can get that data and you can actually put it together however you like. Okay, and you can publish it and you can have people critique it, and you can do the same critique and analysis of anybody else's work. And you can improve it. Like even just one character improvements, you know, I changed somebody's misspelling, okay? I do that from time to time, but people appreciate that because it still makes things better. Anybody here can do that.
I got used to the feature in Google called alerts. You enter a word, topical word that you're interested in, say it might be virtual reality, and Google will send you the top alerts, the top 10 times that was mentioned on the internet that week or that day.
One question also came to me. Do you think it would be possible if, let's say, we took co-visioning, which you put as one of your great interests, should one use a system like GitHub to build a sort of supervision from the best visions that everyone wants to share, and where everyone can build on each other's visions?
Glenn, I love that question. I love that question because I actually did create a GCC repository already at GitHub. I've just not been feeling that it's been appropriate to introduce that here. But your question here says at least, you know, you or others may be ready to try and collaborate that way. And yes, that is one of the dreams that, you know, is in here. Yes, I would love to do that.
Yeah, because that really resonates with what I'm very interested in now, which is really this pursuit of truth and like really solid knowledge. And you know, that's where we could also build the visions for, you know, what could be possible in terms of intelligence tools, in terms of sense-making tools, understanding context, understanding what's actually real, and doing it in a way that also appreciates people and is directed towards that. I feel there's a close connection there too to this theme. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think all of this is super interesting, and I would love to, you know, join any experiment where we could really
So let me
try to
ask
evolve
you,
that.
Glenn, I suspect Josh has, but do you have experience with GitHub, or do you know what GitHub is, Glenn?
I've never been there. No.
Okay, so it takes a little bit of time. It probably takes a little bit of orientation to get your mind wrapped around what GitHub is. But it's basically a place for you to check in your work and share it with anybody you want to collaborate with. And then they can actually check out that work, make their own version of it, make refinements to it, and then propose what's called a merge into the master repository. And that merge can either be done automatically if you have the merge rights or what's called committer rights, or it can go through a review process where somebody who's actually, you know, kind of being a gatekeeper on this master repository says, you know, is that a good merge or is that not a good merge? Is it in accordance with what we want this thing to be, or is it not? okay? And they can then suggest improvements to it that then can then result into a merge. So that whole process is built in into a set of practices that is actually quite elaborate. And in my view, some fairly advanced collaboration frameworks. It does introduce the notion, though, of committer rights, which kind of removes the single tier peer collaboration model. And at least in software, it's been viewed as necessary. So that's what's curious about whether or not we can open it up. If we do open it up to everybody, then anybody can make changes at any time. So there is a risk there. So that's why software has kind of evolved to this multi-tier model of who has committer rights. But other than that, I think it's quite consistent with what we're trying to achieve here in barn raising. It's over.
Could one perhaps have one hub that's open for everybody and can have that as an experimental hub, and then we can have one where there's a team of, let's say,
Right.
10 committed
That's one way to do it.
people, and maybe it can be like a very good synergy between those later on. But like, yeah, you know, you can see it's like a small group. They can really share their best and create their GitHub and begin building on that. But then at some point when you have something, oh, we really think this is pretty interesting and pretty good, we want to put this out, then you can put that into the open hub. So yeah, those also like seem to be things you can do, I guess.
By the way, that notion has been introduced by my friend Jack Park. He's working on a thing called topic quests. And his notion of a dynamic knowledge repository, he calls knowledge gardening. So we each have our own little gardens. And within our gardens, we have people who actually we've given gardening rights. You know, they have the spades, they have the dirt, they have the fertilizer, they can do whatever they want to in that garden. And then when something has like sprouted and, you know, really worthwhile, and the team thinks, hey, this is something we ought to offer the world, then they make that available to the rest of the world. So there's this notion of, here's where we do our private work, here's what we publish out to the rest of the world. He's introduced that model. And oh, by the way, the other metaphor he uses is this notion of guilds within online games. Like, for example, World of Warcraft. You know, you have these teams / guilds to go on a quest. And within a particular team / quest, that team structures itself and organizes itself however they choose to, whether they have a leader, whether they have 7 different roles, whether they have only 2 roles, you know, whether they have sorcerers, whether they have, you know, shamans, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever they do, they control themselves. Whatever they publish out to the world now, you know, gets to be worked on by other people, and other people can take that into their own little gardens, do whatever they want, and then choose then to republish that back out, hopefully in some kind of improved manner, to the rest of the world. So Jack is working on that particular model, which he calls topic quests.
And that's the model, isn't it? That's the model we've all been talking about. I think that's the key. And if you couple that with really good conversations where we can share what we really wish to share, then we seem to really have an engine for creating relevant data to put into it.
Right.
And put into the profiles and actually make really good profiles.
Right.
Profiles that sort of capture also what we're striving for. So there's that connection too.
Yep. Jack, by the way, is one of 2 other people that I consider truly other Doug Engelbart disciple wannabes. You know, Jack is one, and the other I think is Frode Hegland. Now, there's probably others I don't know about, but at least those 2 are also Engelbart disciple wannabes.
That symbol I've created with the logo, with the triangles, it represents the triad, the 3-member groups. And that's the triangles. And the intersecting bars that link the thing together are the network connections that the AI can see. So that's what it looks like in the visual representation.
So basically, to get the really granular and actionable, Glenn, if you want an introduction to GitHub, I'm willing to do a one-on-one or even set up a separate session so other people can attend. So to get a feel for what GitHub does. On the other hand, there are plenty, hundreds of videos and tutorials already out there about GitHub. But if you want a, personalized tour, I'm willing to do that.
I would love to learn more. I mean, yeah, this is incredibly interesting.
And check out
fun
Kaggle,
stuff.
Kaggle. Look at the kind of work that's being done there by hundreds and hundreds of data scientists, professionals as well as amateurs, and what they're able to do together. It's really remarkable.
So one thing I was wondering then, Sam, let's say I ask you now, what do you see the future of technology, of human machine interaction, like Engelbart's big dream? Let's say you saw the best future. If you could choose any future you want, what would it be? What comes to mind?
I'm going to rephrase that question, okay? I'm going to rephrase that question. And I'll answer it, probably take about 3 minutes to do that, okay? If you're really interested. But before I do that, Alex has his finger up.
I hope it doesn't turn out the way the Boston Dynamics is working on. They're working on drones that are killer drones. So the drones that can identify people with facial recognition and just take them out.
Well, that was the plot of Avengers movie too, right? So anyway, yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, any technology, anything is a double-edged sword. You can use it for good, you can use it for evil. Basically, the technology is up to whatever the human chooses to do with it. Okay, that said, however, let me go back about 40 years, okay? 50 years maybe, where before Fortran, in the Fortran days, in the early days of computing, when people said, what are computers good for, okay? It was to automate numbers, right? So we knew how to calculate, we knew how to compute, we knew how to add, subtract, divide, integrate, and all these sort of things with numbers. That's what Fortran allowed us to do. That was kind of like the first paradigm in computing. When Engelbart showed up in the 60s and showed his demo in 1968, basically he, I think, in my opinion, turned the world on its head, because then we were no longer just processing numbers. He showed us how we could process words. He could actually show us outline processing, word processing, multiple windows, multimedia, remote processing, version control. He showed all of these things with a mouse, which he invented. So I would say that we shifted from numbers to words. Now, where we've been the last 30 or 40, even 50 years has still been mostly that. We're still not really able to turn words into even ideas. We're dealing with words as collections of strings. We're not very sophisticated beyond that yet. And in support of that notion, I would cite Alan Kay, who says, we're still working on ideas that were inspired by Doug Engelbart's vision in 1968, okay? So when we got together and put together some conferences called Program for the Future in 2008, 2010, 2013, 2015, my challenge in 2013 to everybody who attended was, what is that next paradigm? We went from numbers to words. What is that next paradigm shift that is going to be there? I have my own answer. You each can have your own answers. I'd be curious to see what it is you guys have, but I've got my own answer. Josh, you've got your hand up. Alex, you've got your hand up.
Python. The language they use to write programs Python is almost as easy as speaking. It's so close to natural language. So if you want to learn a programming language, Python is a language you use.
Yeah, Python is still far from natural language, actually, unfortunately.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
It's pretty clever what they do. I was just reading a tutorial about how to learn programming with Python, and the guys that love it say that it's real easy to get to grips with.
Yeah, it is the most popular and fastest growing language today, especially around data scientists, so there's definitely a big following for it. I would still say, however, it's still far from natural language. You can't just speak natural language to it and have it be called Python. Josh, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of electromagnetic frequency, sound, and light. And that's what I see is really what's been going on the internet for a long time, is translating the words into wavelengths and frequencies. And just the amount of, I work a little bit in music, the whole entire world of music on the computer world is just phenomenal. I mean, it's literally gotten into artificial intelligence, where every melody that could ever be created, there's certain software where you can click a button and it will make a billion melodies. So I believe that the future, what you're talking about as far as natural language, the problem is language keeps changing. So that's sort of a fool's errand to try to turn computing into natural language. That makes no sense, because that natural language will continue to evolve. So you'll continue to never be able to put language, if you will, of human language into the computer. But there are many, many algorithms for taking the sounds themselves. And an example of that is that deep fake sound, where I can take a few different cadences, nuances of you speaking, and then turn that into a natural language processor where everyone would think I'm Sam Hahn, because I'm actually speaking in the exact same tone and frequency. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying that, to me, is what the future is really diving deeper into the nuances of the frequency of the actual sound itself, not so much the language in English or Mandarin, etc., but the way that the wavelengths of the sound move. And there's a new speaker from Apple that came out about 2 years ago that no one's used, but it is the most amazing speaker to ever be created, because it changes the way it processes the sound coming out of the speaker dependent upon the space that you put the speaker in. So I believe it's LiDAR. It uses a radar and possibly LiDAR to scan the room for every possible nook and cranny, and then it adjusts the tone, the lows, the mids, and the highs coming through multiple speakers dependent upon the room you put the speaker in. And that went over a lot of people's heads. It came out for, I think, I think it was even $800 when it first came out, and they're selling it now at a discount for $300. But it also has the ability to know the tones of the voices coming into the microphone. So if it's at full blast, subwoofers blaring, you can say, "Hey Siri," from across the room, and it will hear you, whereas Google speakers don't do that yet.
Cool.
So it's really, to me, that's the future of computing, is how the signals and the noise coming in and out of the device. I mean, to me, programming natural language is just that's what Google does. Is they have, I think their vocabulary used to be maybe 100 or so words when Google speakers first came out, but now they're up to thousands of words and thousands of different commands that you have to learn. They're not quite there where it's 100% natural, but they're getting pretty close. I mean, it's hang out with your Google speaker for, I don't know if you got Alexa, Sam. What do you use for your speaker?
I actually do have multiple Alexa devices around.
Here, that was
okay.
That was an alert. I'm taking an alert that we just had a piece of gold for Mr. Bridge here. You nail it. And that is so interesting what you're saying. Sam's asking, it's gone from numbers to words. What could be the next paradigm? And you're talking about wavelengths, vibrations that go through space. And what are the wavelengths of the sounds? And that ties in with my favorite idea of all ideas in philosophy, which is the idea of patterns of movement in space. And I tie that to behavior, which is another one of my favorites, because behavior is actually the pattern of movement in space of us. And that's an incredibly valuable connection. So I think that, this is an incredibly interesting track of what could be a major paradigm in information theory. To actually connect it to patterns of movement in space, vibrations. That's what I hear. Yeah, Gertrude.
So, Gertrude, did you want to take a shot at this question before you leave?
Oh, actually, my mind is checking out, so I'm not really sure I can say something valuable to that.
Anytime you feel like it. Keith, would you like to try before I give my short response?
Next, no, but the only thing I can try is telling that Amazon forest will be free of machines that destroy it soon. That's what I hope.
I hope so too. Oh, Glenn, if you want to hear it, here's my thoughts on that, okay? If I represent the first paradigm, it was essentially trying to connect our ledgers, our numbers, in a sense, our calculators together. The second paradigm to me represented collecting our notebooks, our words, our typewriters together. What I'm thinking, and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, this is what I would like to see happen, okay, is that the next paradigm to me is that we allow technology to connect our hearts together, for us to build connection. Because in each of these paradigms, the thought blew away what people thought computers could do. When words and Engelbart and multimedia came around, it blew away this notion that computers are only good for numbers. What I'd like to do is say, if we can actually have technology assist us in connecting us heart to heart, empathically, with compassion, and build that web of people and our people connections, to me, that's a worthwhile vision for technology for the next couple of decades. And that's what is my answer to what the next paradigm is.
Yeah, then it would go from just being vibrations to being good vibrations between the hearts of people. Yeah.
Never lose sight of your passion. If you're doing it if you've got a dream, then you need the passion to see it through. And I always recommend to the devotees of the mentors to have a goal, because if you have a goal set with realistic outcomes that is achievable, you're more likely to achieve that goal and go on to a grander opportunity. But if your goal's not realistically set and you're not going to achieve it, it could be a deadener that can put a that can put a fork in the pipe, sort of thing. It ruins the idea. But so achievable goals are the ones to set, ones you think are not that difficult to achieve, until you reach a stage where you want to be adventurous. If you're confident enough to know that you can move the bar higher, then you can go for it. Why not? Dream and let the feedback drive your intuition.
Alex, I'm going to have to say I agree with you 50%, but there's 50% of me that doesn't agree with that. Okay? And that's one of the things that may be holding me back, okay? Which is, if you ask, a lot of criticism was levied in the direction of Doug Engelbart. That people called him only a visionary. In other words, he achieved a small percentage of this very large vision that he really wanted to have. And then his response was, what do you mean only a visionary? Being a visionary is hard work. For him, it took guts and dedication to hold to a vision for our future, knowing that he didn't know how to get us there, but it was still a vision that he felt worthwhile to work towards. So yes, most of business says, yes, you got to have achievable goals. Otherwise, you're not going to get your MBO, you're not going to get your bonus, you're not going to get your raise, you're not going to get your promotion, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way business works, okay? Doug was kind of in a different world, literally, okay, about what he was trying to bring about. And you could talk about Gandhi, was he in a achievable goal when he said, I want nonviolent protests to basically, be the way that we show up in the world? People would probably did laugh at him, right? Wasn't achievable. But decades later, many of us admire that. So I think there's definitely a 50-50 here. Yes, if you're, trying to do measurable achievement of short-term goals, absolutely, I agree with you. That is practice. But if you're trying to change the world and try to bring about a whole new vision and doing this co-visioning, sometimes the achievability will hold you back from the purity of that vision. So I don't know. That's maybe an excuse, but right now that's how I do see Doug and the way he was holding to vision. Yeah, Josh.
I just, when I hear you talk, I'm thinking of metrics themselves and just how many times, like Zeno's paradox, you break that metric in half. And so if it's a huge goal, it could be a 7-generation goal, which I keep bringing up, and I'll continue to bring it up here in GCC and in barn raising, is if we have a huge goal and we do it 7 generations and turn GCC into a trust that's trusting the future generations to do that goal, then I think it's achievable. And if we break it down into smaller steps within ourselves of what we can accomplish in our lifetime and do our best, then we're leading by example, just like Doug Engelbart led an example that you're carrying on today, because you're the next generation from him. They could carry on our examples of things that we did our best of breaking into smaller things. And we didn't achieve 100 of those things, but we achieved 20 of those. And that could be an inspiration for the next generation to achieve the other 80 in maybe 8 seconds, because they're so much faster with their quantum computers. Oh, you know what? Sam wanted to take every single thing that's ever been spoken and analyze it for this. Okay, beep, 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 and that's done. And that would have taken us a whole lifetime. So it's just like, I don't know. I always feel that it's the next generation's job to iterate off of the old one if they choose, if they're inspired. And then sometimes it loops and sometimes it forks off into the most brilliant stuff. And I just had a conversation with a friend last night about how the porn industry built the internet and how integral and crucial the porn industry was, because it was the first thing that could gather enough money to use the JavaScript technologies that I couldn't pay for, but I could go reverse engineer the JavaScript of a payment gateway for a porn hub and use that for a children's school or for a, a nursery or something. It's just, it's important that we help the future generations by our inspiration, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm a big proponent of doing, even if we did 100 things and only one of them was cool enough to really speak to the future kids, 20 years from now, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm complete.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks,
so
Josh.
what would you kind of mean, like that we have a trust, the GCC trust? So that's a place where we collect our finest visions and insights that we.
Yeah, Josh has
share
proposed
in
that
these-
before. Yes, he has.
Yeah, and then that trust can, for example, have a Patreon page, and anyone can choose to put money into it, and that could become a trust that can last also for generations into the future. And perhaps that itself is one of the visions that is included in it.
Yeah, he definitely is. In fact, Josh, your mention of porn is interesting because I don't often share this, but I call this either Han's second or Han's third law, okay, which is the second application, but usually the first profitable one of any new technology is sex and porn. Okay, you look at 911 numbers, you look at VCRs, you look at the internet, like you were saying, right? Usually technology is never invented for sex and porn. That's, never the ostensible reason why anybody invents it. But the first profitable application of it usually, to me, in retrospect, is usually sex and porn. Anyway, that's a funny take on
printing, like book printing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, today, in a blink of an eye, in fractions of a millisecond, I can copy the entire Gutenberg library. And you remember, how long would it have taken for a monk in the Library of Alexandria to copy those books, just so there was another copy for some other location,
300 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's these amazing capabilities of storing knowledge and thus creating new versions.
Yeah.
That's the unique gift we have.
Well, now the challenge is, not how we get information to everybody. It's how we cut down the information that gets to everybody so that it's the meaningful part.
The quality information, with creating actual quality. Yeah, Joshua, you had something there.
I just am too excited to share this with you, Glenn. I was talking to a Chinese medicine school doctor who is getting their degree next year, and her doctor has spent the whole life creating sacred geometrical patterns for healing in Chinese medicine with acupuncture. And she's like, you got to meet my teacher. And I'm going, okay, why? You've been saying that a lot. And then I finally figured out last night, because they're creating sacred geometrical patterns that when you stimulate those patterns on the body, it stimulates certain organs and heals the body. And so to me, that's like life change. That should be on the front page of Time magazine right now. Like, that's just amazing.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to share that with you.
Like, what if you had that kind of knowledge collected? Like, imagine that part of the knowledge repository that just has these geometric shapes that can actually be used, on bodies in a movement pattern, and have, systematically shown themselves to lead to really healing results. That knowledge is worth so much. I mean, no knowledge could be worth more than that. And it can be free knowledge for everybody because it's inexpendable. Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I was just saying, if you search for it, it exists, but it's not always popular and it's not always on the front page. But I was just going through YouTube and it popped up because I'm building up here in the mountains a group in Catalonia, Spain that started the first Fab Lab. And they're using lasers and they're using really advanced cutting machines to cut the wood on the land, repurpose all that wood into geometrical structures that match perfectly with the trees, so that they're utilizing domiciles in both efficiency and in beauty and in a natural formation that allows for a better space to live in, that actually takes the space and moves towards what the trees are already doing. I'll have to show it to you. It is absolutely fantastic, but it only works because they started as a maker laboratory to make little models, and then they took their models and went bigger and then bigger and then bigger and then bigger, and now they're giant, huge complexes of building. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And I didn't know that that existed, and yet it's right in plain sight. It's been out there and on the internet for over a couple of years now.
So these are structures that actually have a direct mind-expanding effect and heart-opening effect on the people who simply see them, right? So, yeah, what if we can have buildings where you have these patterns in buildings, in tools?
I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm just saying the Venus project is working in effect right now in Catalonia, Spain. And if you go to their website, I'm sure they have open source plans on how to do that. And if they don't, we can ask them to open source it. And I'm pretty sure they're open source. That's the vibe I got from the video I watched. But knowing that that exists right now, and you could start your own green fab lab in Norway and start building these structures, I just feel that everything is there. We're just not paying attention.
True. Yeah, I think that's true. And if it's actually sacred geometric shapes, then obviously it's open source because it's existed forever. And it's the center of everything. And we all have it.
And it's working off of Buckminster Fuller was doing this back in 1940. So it's been around for a long time. I'm just saying, we forget that all knowledge doesn't go away. It just sits and hides in certain spots until someone shines the light on it. So the truth is there, waiting for someone to shine the light on it and waiting for it to spark that spark of, hey, let's all do that because I think we'd be happier. And other people are saying, well, the zoning laws in this part of Norway, we don't allow for that kind of structure. And, those are the things that have to change as the regulators and the lawmakers. And that allows for those things to flourish and thrive.
Exactly. Yeah. And behind Alex right now, Alex, can you show us that behind you? There we see it. There we see that kind of structure with our own eyes. and they're so beautiful, and they're so functional, they're so strong. You can build things with them. It can be a platform, it might even be a software structure. It's the crystal structure. I mean, these patterns, they've actually been existing forever. Everything points towards that. And it's at the foundation of everything that exists. At least this has been suggested by very many. And as far as I can tell, this seems to be that they are a gate from the normal human level, you could say, but a gate then into some kind of eternal pattern, like a core pattern. And yeah, it's that kind of what's at the center of this.
There's a possibility, you know,
Oh, go ahead.
who's finished. If you have enough people in a small group, you can get a piece of land, like in Nevada or somewhere where it's very cheap, they give it away. If you live there and grow your own food, they'll let you have the land for nothing, virtually. But you can use a solar-powered desalinator machine, which will provide you free water, all the water you need for nothing, and powered from the sun. And you can grow hemp for the sustainable housing market, these tiny houses, and fix the homeless problem overnight. And all they'd pay for their tiny houses.
We could fix everything. Yeah, I mean,
small amount of rent.
We could build systems of this. This is amazing stuff. Yeah, I have to go soon with Sam.
I think it's obvious that we've had the means to solve hunger, to solve homelessness, to solve all of this for quite a while. If we can materialize $2 trillion to bail out Wall Street, we've had the means for quite a while. We've just not had an administration or leadership that's ever believed that that was important. That's the problem. You know, a few aircraft carriers, and you know, a lot of problems will be solved.
Yeah, 6 trillion.
Is it up to 6 now?
Yes,
It's
exactly. I think that is the key.
So our leadership is short-sighted. They serve the elites. They serve the powers that be. They're basically hand puppets that are bought by, you know, shadow figures. It's a sad state of the world.
Exactly. And what if we have a multi-trillion-dollar fund that's a fund for the whole planet, and it's a long-term fund, and we say, everyone put your money into this, and let's build something that is such a big idea that eventually it includes everyone so well that they will go for it. That's the kind of things which become possible. Yeah, 6 trillion. Josh, what are you thinking?
Money conversation on a different GCC call, and the word that I would just throw out there is the word bond. So something has to back the bond, and if you create a trust, then the trust can back the bonds and stand up the agreements that people are making to bond it, and that becomes a financial asset. But that's a lot of due diligence to create an organization that makes sure that that bond is not only paid for and invested into, but disseminated out into the project, and keep it funding and keep the rating of the bonds rated at a high level depending on the completion of each project. And that's where you get into, you know, A-rated bonds, B-rated bonds, C-rated bonds. And when you start off, they're more risky bonds. They're maybe D or E or F type of bonds. But the more you complete those projects, the more people will invest in that bond itself. So if we take the word agreement and turn it into bond, you're agreeing to an investment. And if that investment turns out to be a good one, then the value goes up each time you complete a project. And that's how nations are built. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so then we could, for example, agree to a vision of a really beautiful world. If, let's say, we've created that together, by everyone actually describing their vision, and the bigger vision being the totality of all that, for example. So many possibilities with all this. It's really amazing to just, have some time together like this and reflect on it, because I really feel that this is like, there's so many incredible opportunities if we were to really look into this and think what could be created here in terms of a larger vision for the whole world. Yeah,
Can I ask
sure.
Sam a question?
Yeah, go
Are you
ahead.
still there,
Ask.
Sam?
He's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, Sam, have you been to the Apple spaceship yet? Have you been into that
No.
building?
I've not been there since it's been created. No.
Okay,
I do
'cause
have
a friend of
friends that
mine
work
did.
there, and they say remarkable things about it, but I've not actually been there. I moved away before that complex was completed.
Okay, I would love to take a trip with some members of GCC, including yourself, because I haven't been there either. And my friend is the arborist who did all of the trees for the whole complex. And so I would love to go visit him and just walk around the grounds and show me all the trees that he took from our town in Santa Barbara and put into the complex. And I just think if anyone here hasn't taken a look on Google, just look at that spaceship. That is what we can create. And then the Tesla factories are just too boxy and square. They look terrible from the outside, but they're also very efficient gigafactories with all the solar panels. But the spaceship is a work of art. It was almost like a Van Gogh, like Steve Jobs' Van Gogh. He had this vision before he passed away of this beautiful circular space where you don't just go into an auditorium, you go into an empty space and then you go down steps and you're in an auditorium. It's just a real beautiful architectural, futuristic way that we could build structures to cooperate. And it exists in Cupertino. It's there on One Loop Way. I mean, it's
Walking
amazing.
distance from where I used to live. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised how little attention it gets. I can't believe that that's just not in the news as much as Elon Musk is all the time.
What's in the news a lot in the Bay Area?
Elon,
in the
Elon,
Bay Area.
Yeah. I heard that Elon Musk has got a proposal for a massive solar farm, I think 10 square kilometers or something, that'll power the whole of America, the whole of the United States from one solar farm.
Yeah,
That's
he's
amazing,
actually.
Go ahead,
sorry,
Josh.
I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm just such a fanboy. I'm like, I fanboy out like way too hard on Tesla company, because I was a fanboy of Nikolai Tesla for 20 years. And then when that company was created, it felt like it was building his legacy, which I love Nikolai Tesla. But they're moving to Texas right now. They're going to announce this month. There's a huge announcement called Battery Day. And the speculation is that the batteries now can double the technology of storage capacity, which means they're going from 500,000 miles per car to 1 million miles per car on a battery life cycle, which what that means to the world is you can now take your car without degrading the battery and plug it into your house. And that gives a storage capacity that creates economic value in the trillions of dollars to sell back the electricity to the grid when the prices are very high. So your car has application software that's smart enough to say, I'm going to store the electricity until the price goes up, and when it goes up, I'm going to sell it. So it's like a stock market for electricity. And that is game changing for the entire world. And that announcement is supposed to happen this month in June. He's put it off for 3 months
Powerwall
now.
would have done that too. Do you know anybody that has a Powerwall? I've been trying to figure out where to get one.
The problem, there's a big, huge problem with this, and that is that when you build factories to make batteries, you produce a lot of CO2. So
yeah, but we can capture that.
We need the solar farm first. Get the solar farm first, and then use the solar farm power to build the battery factory.
CO2 capturing technologies are actually being developed in Norway these days. I think they are investing quite a lot in that, and that could also be combined, if it is a sort of factory that does have emissions. But yeah, this is revolutionary if that's true that the battery capacity has increased so much. I mean, that's quite a revolutionary thing.
Yeah, you'd be able to charge you'd be in one day of sunshine, you'll be able to power your home for a week.
You know, if you've taken a look at these studies, if you take even like what, I think Josh will know the actual number, but it's something on the order of like 1 square mile by 1 square mile or 10 square miles by 10 square miles, somewhere out in the desert. That's enough to power the entire world. You know, it's
Yep.
it's a finite capacity. Question is one of distribution, but you know, we can solve that also. By the way,
it's also,
there was a couple of Russian guys, I don't know if you saw this, Josh, maybe 5-10 years ago, who had a Patreon or GoFundMe because they wanted to build one of these Tesla power towers, you know, where you could actually remotely generate and project power. I don't think they were successful, but I actually donated to that one. I was disappointed that they were not actually successful, but you know, I am also a fan of Tesla and I'm trying to support that where I can.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like what I think Elon Musk brought to the conversation is the energy that Tesla was trying to produce from the air was at such a little volume. The amount of voltage that comes from 0 point energy is so tiny and minuscule, but the sun right now, the UV rays from the sun have increased in the last month. I don't know if anyone's noticing. I'm seeing the aurora borealis behind your head, Sam. And
I got that every night, by the way.
Go on. Yeah, I'm just saying, go on Google and look at the changes of the UV rays from the sun. They fluctuate very fast. And my power system actually popped off during this call because the sun came out of the clouds, overloaded the system, and the inverter started beeping and I lost power because I got too much energy and it overloaded the inverter that I had for 2,000 watts. It was just boom, it just got overloaded.
Time to get those huge vanadium batteries, Joshua.
You need a rectifier.
Yeah, well, I have some really expensive, I sold my car actually to get the batteries that are in the system right now. I decided to sell my car and turn them into batteries. So all the batteries up here are from the sale of my old car. And it's still running and someone's still using it. So I didn't send it to the junkyard, which I'm proud of. I put another $2,000 into it and sold it for $4,000 and took the $2,000 profit and bought what's called AMG, automated glass mat batteries that do not outgas acid. So the lead acetone batteries is what we had. And then we moved them to a battery that can be stored indoors without causing harm to the human beings indoors. But the new batteries that are coming out is from a company called Maxwell Technologies, and it's a dry cell. And it's a way that the dendrites move back and forth between the cathode, between, not to get too complicated, but they usually leave this filter like a film that degrades the battery. And so the way that they're creating the mixture of the lithium and the carbon, what is it? Lithium and I forgot the other element. It's not degrading as fast because they're giving it like air to breathe, if you will. So the dendrites don't build up. And the better we get at this battery technology, it's really in sync and symbiosis with the solar panels. We're only set, like right now, I'm only getting about 12 to 15% efficiency on a whole panel. The top efficiency that anyone's getting in the world right now is 22%. But the latest in solar technology is now at, I believe it was 39% is what they're projecting for next year. So when we get up to 40 to 50% of the space on the solar panels, then we can have that vision you said, Sam, of a solar farm in the top of Texas that does the entire state, the entire continent of North America in the size of half of Texas. Like just a tiny part of Texas could do the whole United States, but just half of Texas could do literally all the way up to Canada, down to Mexico.
Hey guys, I have to go now, but I just want to say thanks so much, Josh. I mean, you are just so awesome, and what we've shared here is so awesome, guys. I would love to do a deep dive anytime going into this because I think it's total gold. Anyway, have a great day, guys.
Okay. Bye for now, guys.